Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, September 18th, 2022. This is episode 1928. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Unify Meeting from Mimo Monitors. Unify simplifies your work life by combining your favorite video conferencing solutions into one reliable, universal user interface. Visit unifymeeting.com, enter the code TechGuy for 25% off a year's subscription, or use the same code and get 25% off any of Mimo's 7-inch displays. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, augmented reality, virtual reality, real reality. 8888 Ask Leo. Yeah, we could talk about refrigerators with the web browsers built in. We could talk about electric vehicles that are just golf carts with computers on top. We could talk about any of that. 8888 Ask Leo is my phone number. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still reach me, but you'll have to use Skype or something like that. 8888 Ask Leo. There is a website, and I mention this because sometimes you hear something on the show and you say, well, I want to know more about that. Well, that's where the website comes in handy, because we'll put all the links there. I know people like to know, what's that song that Laura played, our musical director, and we put a playlist there on Sundays. It takes a couple of days to get it there. We put a playlist up there. We also put audio and video from all the shows. This is episode 1928. 1928. So if you go to techguylabs.com, you'll see it all there. You will also see, I should mention, we changed the website. We used to have a standalone website, and that really got a little too costly. So we had to do a big update, and I saw the bill and I choked and I said, can't we just piggyback this on our podcast site? So that's what we're doing. It's on the podcast site. So don't be alarmed when you go to techguylabs.com and it suddenly changes into twit.tv. That's the podcast site, thisweekintech.tv. But if you get there, one of the advantages of that, you can see all the other stuff we do all week long after the radio show. Lots of geeky, stuffy, big story. There are actually quite a few big stories this week. Quite a few. I don't even know where to start. I don't. So cryptocurrency, right? You can't avoid it. There's a guy in the Denny's talking about it, at the top of his lungs. Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, and blah, 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 NFTs, blah, blah, blah. So I know you've heard about all this stuff. These are alternatives to the dollar, the franc, the mark, and the yen. They are, they're all made up, right? They're made up not by a government, but just by some mathematician somewhere, Satoshi Nakamoto, in the case of Bitcoin. And the idea is they are still what we call fiat currencies, and fiat stands for is the Latin word for faith. I have faith that this thing is meaningful and is worth something. But unlike the U.S. dollar, it's not recognized everywhere and so forth. Although there are, Bitcoin ATMs, I would stay away from those. Just, that's just me. Don't put hard-earned American greenbacks in there to get some digital fluff, because the digital fluff, like Bitcoin, goes up and down and up and down. I saw an analyst today said, it's going to hit $100,000. What? It did get up to 60, so maybe that's not so strange. I don't know. Look, the stock market goes up and down too, so I guess it's not much different than the stock market. Currently, it's at $19,690 per Bitcoin. That's a lot of money, especially since if you had realized that was going to happen, you could have stocked up on Bitcoins for a couple of bucks. You could have got 50 Bitcoins, and you'd be sitting pretty right now. But then there's this problem, because is it going to go to 100,000? Because that's 5 times more. Maybe I should sit on it a little. Anyway, one of the negatives on these cryptocurrencies really isn't very nice is they in order to create them, in order to avoid inflation, in the dollar, the Fed just says the government just says let's print some more, and that's that, and that's kind of inflationary, or is it deflationary? I don't know. It's not good. Maybe it's deflationary. More dollars, same amount. I don't know. Anyway, it's not good. And they can just do it, right? They used to tie it to gold, so at least they had to have some gold coins somewhere in some bank vault to match the number of dollars. But that's long gone. Now it's just, print some more. With Bitcoin, in order to avoid this problem, you have to use a powerful computer to solve difficult math problems. I know, it sounds strange. I'm not kidding. They solve these difficult math problems, and when they solve them, ching, a little Bitcoin falls out of the computer. My friend Steve Gibson, in the early days, you could take a regular everyday computer, put a Bitcoin miner, that's the software, on it. It's for those mathematically inclined, it is factoring primes, hard problem. And it does it, and he let it run overnight, and ching, the next morning he gets up, and it dropped 50 Bitcoin. 50. They're worth $20,000 now. That's $1 million. Ba-ching, overnight on a regular computer. But that was years ago. And unfortunately, because at the time, that's maybe, I don't know what, $10. It wasn't worth a lot. Steve didn't take it seriously. And he reused the hard drive that the wallet that was storing the coin was on, and it's gone. It's lost forever. $1 million. Whoop, I don't talk to him about that because poor guy. I have 7 Bitcoin in a wallet somewhere that I can't remember the password to. It's just sitting there. That's $140,000. But if I had access to it, I might have cashed it in back when it was 5,000, saying, "Wow, look at that! I got $5,000 here, real American dollars." So that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. The problem is, as it goes along over the years, it gets intentionally so harder and harder to mine it. So you need bigger and bigger machines. You need graphics processors. Then you need specially designed ASIC chips that are specially designed for this. Then it becomes so hard to do that you can't do it in California because power is too expensive. So you move all your mining machines to China next to a hydroelectric dam where power is virtually free. And now you can make some money. Those people, they're called Bitcoin miners. A couple of years ago, China kicked them out. So they had to go other places. I know Bitcoin. I know some people who do this. It's a balancing act between the cost of electricity and how much power this computer has to use to generate the Bitcoin. People have observed that all these cryptocurrencies use a lot of power. In fact, as much as a small nation. I mean, so much so that you might say it's not a good idea to make up imaginary money if it's going to burn the world down. Right? The reason it's estimated that one Bitcoin transaction takes 1,449 kilowatt hours. That's 50 days of power for the average U.S. household. For one transaction, you go buy a pizza with a Bitcoin, you're using 50 days of energy. That's cray-cray, right? So there's another cryptocurrency, arguably maybe even more popular than Bitcoin, called Ethereum. ETH to the people in the know. If you go around these bros and they're saying, well, you got the ETH, you got the ETH. NFTs are primarily sold for ETH, ETH. ETH also used this system of this called proof of work that used a lot of energy until Thursday. This is actually, I know it's hard to believe that this is a big story, especially considering how much I have to explain just to even say what happened. But Thursday, the entire Ethereum blockchain moved from proof of work, very energy intensive, to something they call proof of stake, which uses 99% less energy. Which is interesting. It's much less costly, but also Bitcoin and Ethereum miners don't like it because their fancy, expensive machines are no longer going to make them any money. And in fact, it's gotten so expensive to mine other coins, to look at other coins. There's lots of them. Shiba Inu, named after the dog. Dogecoin, named after the meme. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies. None of them make enough money to justify the electric costs. So all of these guys, and there are thousands of them, who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars each on Bitcoin mining rigs with, giant computers, ray after ray with GPUs and stuff. They're going, oh, man, it's not profitable anymore. So they're, by the way, just get prepared. They're going to flood the market. These GPUs are already on eBay and elsewhere. They're heavily used. Not sure I'd recommend them, because they've been mining, for all this time. But it was called the merge, the Ethereum merge. If you hear the merge, that's what's going on. That's what happened Thursday. And all these guys with these expensive Bitcoin miners, they're making, a quarter, like 25 cents worth of Bitcoin a day before paying for the electricity. It's just it's upside down. So this is a huge shift. We're going to watch with interest to see what happens. You might say, well, is that really the biggest story of the week? Well, it's just one. It's one. There's many. I'll talk about the rest throughout the show. Yes, I have the new iPhone in front of me. It came out yesterday. I waited in line for 8 whole minutes. I remember getting the first iPhone back in 2007. Went down to the at&t store with a lawn chair, sat there for 8 hours at least before the store opened, went in hoping they would have an iPhone by the time, because I was like 30th in line. There were a lot of people hoping they'd have an iPhone. They did. Got the first iPhone that way. Still have it. It's right behind me. Today or yesterday, went down to the mall, the Apple store at the mall. I had an appointment. Showed them my QR code on my old iPhone. And they said, yes, sir, just get in line here. I thought, oh, no, it's still a line. But I timed it 8 minutes to get a new iPhone. Is it worth it? Well, it's not just the 8 minutes. It's the $1,000+ probably if you have an iPhone relatively recent, anything iPhone 8, 10, 11, 12, you probably, you're fine. You're fine. It's nice. It's nice. It has the dynamic island. It has a better camera, but nothing to write home about. I mean, it's just the next iPhone. Every year, it's a little bit better. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. That's another story. Lots of stories to talk about. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We will take your calls in a bit. Sam Abuelsamid going to talk cars. He's at the Detroit Auto Show. That's later this hour. This makes me move my big shoulder pads. Kim Schaffer, phone angel, the unbreakable phone angel. She's the one who answers your calls. Hello, Kim.
Hello.
We had rain, the first rain we've had in 6 months, I believe.
I know.
Yes?
I was in shorts and a tank top yesterday, and today I'm in flannel and boots. Go figure.
Were you splashing around in the rain?
I was not, but I could.
Yeah, we don't. In California, we have a rainy season.
That comes every 8 years?
Yeah. We've also been in a massive drought. So much so that in the West, lakes are so depleted, the bodies are starting to show up.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
Lake
we
Mead.
talked about that.
Yeah, where that's where Vegas, where the mob throws the bodies.
Yeah.
And now that Lake Mead is shrinking, oh, look.
The unsolved mysteries
Oh,
are
look.
about to be solved.
That's where Joey Bananas went. Oh. But this rain, maybe that'll do a little to help.
We need to cover those bodies back up.
Cover them right up. It's also good for the plants and other living things. So we're very glad.
We do
to
provide agriculture to a lot of this world. So
yeah. Rainy season doesn't usually start this early, does it? I'm talking to a native here.
No, I don't think so.
So good. That's a good sign, perhaps.
It is a good sign.
Perhaps. Who should I start the program with?
Let's go to Indiana and talk to Brian. I think his Wyze Cams are doing some funny business.
Uh-oh. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Brian, Charleston, Indiana. Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I started out with like 4 or 5 of these Wyze Cams and the version 2. And
well, at least you have the version 2. The version 1 cannot be fixed.
Right. And then I upgraded to the version 3, and I got 4 or 5 more of them. So I've got like 8 cameras running, and they notify me like constantly, 8 times an hour. It's crazy.
It's annoying because you got the motion detection turned on, right?
Right.
You can turn that down. You can say, don't be so, stop it. Don't be so sensitive. And it's still notifying you 8 times an hour. That's useless.
Right. So I decided to go ahead and get the Wyze home monitoring system. thinking I would get more
Sure.
control over
If it's not working well, spend more money on it.
Right. Well, it starts calling the cops.
What? Well, that's not good. Yeah, that's
so
embarrassing.
Cops showing up.
Oh, that's not good. And in fact, they'll start charging you after a couple of times.
Right. I turned it off. I can't use it. How do I make this manageable?
Ugh. I do not know. I don't know either. Yeah, and I feel bad because I have for a long time recommended these. They're very affordable, which is nice. This is a company up in Seattle that said, we can make good stuff without charging Apple prices for it. And so they did, except you remember, and we talked about it, they got a little bit of trouble because they had a security flaw in the original Wyze Cam.
Yeah. Version 1.
Yeah, they didn't tell anybody about it until they got caught. And then they said, oh, well, we can't fix the version 1. Mm-hmm. So everybody, the version 1 is like, well, okay. I guess, I don't know if they gave you a discount. Anyway, it kind of has slowed me down recommending them. On the other hand, I still think they're good quality for a low price. So you've turned down the sensitivity. I'm trying to remember. I haven't used a Wyze in a while. We have one somewhere here. Can you tell it what zones to watch?
Yeah, I think that's what I need to do is start moving the outside cameras in and the inside cameras out. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a security expert. Maybe that's what I need is somebody to come in here and say, hey, okay, this is in the wrong spot.
I think you can do it. I think you can do it yourself. But look in the software. And I don't know, some cameras like the Nest cams, which I use at the house, you can name zones and you draw them. They're triangles. So the camera sees out in a triangle and you can say, well, look. Yeah, because we don't. So for instance, our Nest doorbell sees the street. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to notify me when a car goes by. That's nothing. So I make the zone just be the sidewalk right in front of the house, right? So, and I said, don't look at anything else. If somebody's coming in from the side, yeah, I'd like to know that. If somebody's coming down the path, yeah, I'd like to know that. But I don't need to know if somebody's going by on the street. So I think you can do that. They're not triangles in the Wyze Cam. Somebody's saying they're boxes. So what you want to do is create zones. And probably it's notifying you so much because it sees birds or it sees
flat parts.
Yeah, exactly. Those little guys in front of the car dealerships. So so draw the boxes where you want to know if there's motion and eliminate the area where you don't want to know. That, I think, will help. So I'm told the Wyze Cam does have that capability. It would be silly if it didn't for this very reason, right?
Right. And I just haven't dialed that in. Okay.
Yeah. Just narrow down. I mean, there's things, somebody has a Ring doorbell and he says sunlight coming through this garage doors triggers an alert. I mean, that's, you want to kind of figure out if there's motion here, I want to know about it. There shouldn't be any there. But don't tell me about places where there is normally motion because that's not helpful. In fact, it's causing a problem because I'm getting alert fatigue. Eventually what you do is you say, well, don't tell me anymore. And now you might miss those alerts. That's always a problem with security stuff. You want just the alerts that you care about. Sam Abuelsamid, car guy, coming up. Yes, spider webs, moths, giant moths. That kind of thing. Hey, Sam.
Hello, Leo.
How's life in Ypsilanti?
Good. Yesterday, my wife and I and our dog went to Detroit to Belle Isle Park. There's this really cool public garden there.
Nice.
And as we were driving into the park, my wife looked over and saw it was the Michigan Tree Climbing Championships.
Wow.
Was going on.
What fun.
Yeah, so after we were done in the garden, we walked across the roadway there and checked out the tree climbing championship. Basically, it's for arborists competing, to show their skills at getting up and down into trees. And actually, one of the competitions was aerial rescue, and so they had like a big mannequin, so the climber had to get up in the tree and safely bring down the mannequin.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah. Really cool. We had a call from Ypsilanti yesterday asking about license plate cameras. And he said they've been made illegal in the city of Ypsilanti. City council voted against it. But then the county overruled them. So that's not nice.
I know that they were proposing to put them here in Ypsi.
Yeah.
But I couldn't remember seeing what was the decision there.
Well, I think Ypsi said no.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not that the city made them illegal, but just the city was going to have a bunch of them installed. And then there was a backlash against it. They voted against paying for the installation. But then I think then Washtenaw County may have decided to go ahead and do it anyway.
I think that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Because they are legal in Michigan.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and that's what I said is, look, you don't have a right to passage on the road. Those, that's why you have to get a driver's license. It's not,
right.
It's not like just walking around your neighborhood.
Driving's a privilege, not a right.
So I think probably the courts will always say, yeah, that's fine. Driver's license cameras. You're on the road. You have a car. You know, that license is issued to you by the state. So we have the right to look at it.
Yep.
But I don't blame him. He was thinking, well, I think I've heard of some paint you could put on it or a filter you could put on it so the cameras can't read it.
There's like little plastic films that you can get, you put a license plate frame on and then this film goes underneath it. And basically it's like a polarizing filter. So from the angles that the cameras are at, they can't really read the plate. Yeah. They are illegal in a lot of places.
That's what I said to him. I said, well, if there is a technique,
you have to be careful.
It will be made illegal. Yes.
Yeah. They're not illegal everywhere, but they are illegal in some locations.
Yeah.
So apparently Retcon 5 has been an arborist for 5 years.
He's been an oh yeah, he's climbing this is Retcon 5 as a child. Yeah. We had a couple of our trees trimmed last year. We've got this giant maple. Those guys,
great canopy over our backyard.
Brave. Yeah.
And watching those guys go up in the tree, they're 30, 40 feet up in the air and trimming off the branches.
Crazy.
It was amazing. It was like watching a monkey climbing around.
We have the same thing. We have giant eucalyptuses we have to have trimmed every 4 or 5 years because they grow so fast. Hold on here. Hold on. The Tech Guy Podcast brought to you today by Mimo Monitors and their amazing Unify meeting software. Now, if you use Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or all three, I do. We use all three, call different people. They're going to use different software and stuff. It gets a little complicated, doesn't it? I hang up every time we do our Google Meet. We do a weekly meeting for the company, and I hang up because the Google Meet off button is where the Zoom unmute button is. And invariably, I'm trying to unmute and I hang up. They just know it. They say every time I join the call, they say, okay, he'll be right back. Because I click the unmute, except it hangs up. That's what Unify Meeting solves. One user interface for all your favorite video conferencing solutions. It's a universal user interface. You always know where the buttons are. It's a Unify Meeting. It's such a great idea. It's an intuitive software to simplify your work life, combining all your favorite video conferencing solutions into one reliable universal interface. Saves you time, saves you the hassle. And I got to tell you, the best way to do this, to get one of these little 7-inch Mimo monitors, they have actually different sizes, but plug in I like the little 7 inches, plug it in. Unify Meetings running on that monitor. When you're not a call, put your calendar so you know when your next call is. All you do is you click the calendar in Unify Meeting, the appropriate program, whatever program it is that meeting is going to be on, launches. And if you're using it on the 7-inch monitor, that will be your call monitor. And on your computer monitor, you'll see the actual user interface for Zoom or Teams or Meets. And that way you'll still have that access to that, but you'll have Unify Meeting in the little monitor. I think that's the really, really cool way to do it. Unify runs on Windows. It's PC compatible. It's $35.88 for a whole year. And this is why I recommend it, if you buy one of those Mimo monitors, it's free. So it just comes with a monitor. So try Unify for your team at work or try it for yourself. Unify Meeting, UNIFYMEETING.com. And by the way, if you decide to buy it, use the offer code TECHGUY and you'll get 25% off your subscription for the whole year. Or buy a Mimo 7-inch display and get 25% off that and get Unify Meeting for free. Now you're talking. This is great for people who are working kind of hybrid, right? Sometimes in the office, sometimes they're at home, sometimes they're on the road. Bring your Mimo monitor with you, plug it into your laptop. You're golden. You're golden. It's a great way to work. And 25% off when you use the offer code TECHGUY right now. So go to unifymeeting.com. They have the displays there. You can get one of those 7-inch displays or get Unify Meeting for $35.88 a year, a whole year, and take 25% off the top with the offer code TECHGUY. Please use that offer code too so they know you saw it here. Thank you, Mimo. Thank you, Mimo and Unify Meeting for supporting the Tech Guy Show. Now, back to the program. Gentlemen, start your engines. Sam Abuelsamid is here, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, podcaster, wheelbearings.media. It looks like you're taking a ride in a Waymo. What are you doing back there?
Actually, a cruise vehicle. I was in San Francisco earlier this week. Cruise, which is the automated driving company that is majority owned by General Motors, Honda, and a couple other companies are also investors, was holding an open house at their headquarters on Bryant Street. And back in June of this year, they launched their public ride-hailing service in parts of the city. And
I see them all over San Francisco.
District.
Yeah, they're very visible. Yeah.
So right now they have a fleet of Chevrolet Bolts that have been modified for self-driving.
They look like Ghostbuster cars. They got big things on the top and spinning around and all sorts of stuff.
They got all the LiDAR sensors and radars and cameras.
Google's Waymo is also self-driving cab service in San Francisco. So it's all over the city.
And Waymo is still waiting on their permit to offer paid driverless rides in San Francisco. They've been doing it in Chandler, Arizona for a while and just recently expanded into downtown Phoenix. And Cruise has been doing it in San Francisco since June.
So is this video from your ride?
Yeah.
So there's no driver in the front?
Nope. I was the only person in the car.
So you hail it with an app?
Yep. It's just like using Uber or Lyft. You use the Cruise app. And
it cruises up to you. And there's nobody driving it. And you just you open the door. I would have some trepidation doing this.
You put in your destination in the app, just like you do with Uber or Lyft. And when the car arrives, it'll let you know that it's there. And you swipe to unlock the doors because there's nobody in there, so the doors are automatically locked. So you swipe on the screen of your phone to unlock the doors, and then you get in the car. And once you're buckled in and the doors are closed, the car, there's a voice in the car that'll tell you, okay, we're ready to go. If you sit there and don't buckle up, it says, I can't go anywhere until you put on your seatbelt. And then once you're all set, then the car just goes and it drives wherever you want. And I had my first ride in an automated vehicle back in January 2008. So there's the
there you are going down the Pine Street in the Ghostbusters car. Yeah.
I had my first ride in an AV back at CES in 2008, and that was in the Chevy Tahoe that won the DARPA Urban Challenge. And that was driving around a course in what was then the Gold Lot at the Las Vegas Convention Center. It's that's now the site of the West Hall Convention Center, and I've ridden in many AVs over the last
you're used to
15
this.
years now.
You're a little used to this,
but this was the very first time.
There was no human.
This was the first time that I got into a car with no safety driver, no minder from the company. They just, they handed me a loaner iPhone because right now their app is only on iOS. They're still working on their Android app. So they loaned me an iPhone to use, but the Cruise app, and said, here you go. We'll see you in about 30 or 40 minutes, go wherever you want within the service area.
What was it like? I mean, was it?
It was utterly uneventful. which is exactly the way it should be.
Did it pause appropriately, and did it drive really slow sometimes, or?
I mean, there were times, like for example, towards the end of the ride when we're getting back to the starting point, and this is the other thing, there was no prescribed route, so I could go anywhere I wanted in the part of San Francisco they operate in. But towards the end of the ride, there was a four-way stop. Car came up to the four-way stop, stopped, started to move forward, and then just as it started to move, a pedestrian decided to cross the street right there in front of it. And so it stopped and waited for the pedestrian. Same thing, a couple other places where it was making unprotected left turns. It would pause and wait for the pedestrians to get clear, and then it proceeded along its route. So, it was completely uneventful. It was exactly what you would want a really good cab driver to do.
Which they don't do, right? They drive like hellions. So, do you think pedestrians test it? Like in San Francisco, they say, "Oh, there's a cruise."
I'm sure
they walk
there
right
are
in front of
absolutely
it.
times. Yeah, there are absolutely times when pedestrians will do that, and that is one of the reasons why these cars do have to be a little more cautious.
Sure,
you don't want something like what Elon Musk has talked about with a Mad Max mode for your automated driving.
You don't want
system.
it to be aggressive. Why?
No.
So there's some parts of the city it won't drive in. Why is that?
Well, yeah. So right now, the California Public Utilities Commission, which regulates taxi services and ride-hailing services and so on, you have to get a permit from them. And to start with, the CPUC gave crews a permit that allows them to operate between 10 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. within about 1/3 of the city of San Francisco. So northern western part, like from the Richmond district across to the west around Golden Gate Park and out to the coast. Those are areas that the traffic is not as heavy as in the financial district or some other parts of the city. And then they've requested permission to expand that to the entire city and 24 hours a day. They're still waiting on that permission from the CPUC, but they did announce on Monday, that they are expanding. They're adding service by the end of the year in Phoenix and Austin with driverless ride hailing. So they plan to be in 3 cities by the end of this year, which is, if they can do that, especially Austin is going to be interesting to watch because they haven't done any testing in Austin. They've been doing a lot of simulation of driving in Austin. They have been testing in Phoenix because they've been working with Walmart doing grocery deliveries. But they'll be completely new into Austin, and the plan is to go in, spend a couple of weeks mapping the city, and then launch the service.
Wow!
And they think they can do it, and so it'll be interesting to watch what happens in Austin over the next few months.
Is it eerie a little bit sitting in that thing?
It is a little, yeah. These things, they're still limited in where they can operate, from a technical standpoint, not just the regulatory standpoint.
Why is that? Is it too
in really bad weather and things like that?
Sure. Because the cameras and the LiDAR probably don't work as well.
And they do have to map where they're driving in advance.
I'm looking at your video. It looks like it's going pretty briskly down these city streets. It's not hesitant. It's going kind of how you limit. It's kind of how you would drive. You think?
Yeah.
Did it do anything weird at all
with the flow of traffic?
Did you do anything where you went, "Oh, that's a robot"?
Nothing strange at all.
Is there a big red button you can hit to stop it and get out?
There's a button. You sit in the back seat. There's a button right above you that says "End Ride," and you press that button, and the car will pull over the nearest safe spot. And then when you do that, and I actually tried this towards the end of my ride.
Yeah, I would have too.
It'll pull over to the nearest safe spot, and then somebody from Cruise's control center will come on, a live operator, and say, is there anything I can help you with?
Are you okay?
You press the end ride button.
Yeah,
and they just want to check and make sure everything's cool.
Right.
And if there's no problem, I told them, I was taking a test ride.
I'm Sam Abuelsamid, and I'm testing this car.
Do you know who I am? And so they, I explained.
Eventually,
that I was just testing it, and that there was no problem, everything was good.
This is a regular everyday Bolt. Eventually, they would want to make a car that doesn't have driver's seats and steering wheels and all that stuff.
And they do have that it's called the Cruise Origin, and right now they've been testing those for about a year and a half now at the GM Proving Grounds and also at Gomentum Station near San Francisco. They're just waiting on approval from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to put these vehicles on public roads because there's no steering wheel, no pedals. It's a dedicated, purpose-built robotaxi.
Sam Abuelsamid, he takes a hit for us and survived. Guidehouse Insights, wheelbearings.media. Well, I'm sure we'll hear more on the podcast. Thank you, Sam. Wow, that's fascinating. More calls coming up next. I feel like we live in the future. I've never been in such a thing, so I feel like I would be scared. I'd get in and go, oh.
Well, what you should do is download the Cruise app on your iPhone.
Yeah, go to San Francisco.
Well, right now there's a waiting list, so it's like a lot of things. When they're launching it, they gradually add more and more people. So when you create an account and add yourself to the waiting list.
Wow! And
sometime in a few weeks' time, probably you'll get an email saying, "Hey, we're ready to add you, to give you access to the cruise service. And then, the next time you go into San Francisco, you can take a ride and try it out."
I wonder if Lisa would get in with me or if she'd say, no way. Wow. I'm nervous, but I think it looks, what's interesting is it's not driving cautiously from the video I'm looking at. It's just, it's as if they're a human.
It's a little cautious in some respects. Like, for example, if it needs to make a right turn at a red light, it will not proceed. It will wait until the light turns green to make a turn.
So as a driver, it's legal to make a right on the red in California.
But it's not crawling along. I mean, if it's going to be a viable thing, it's got to be able to operate at the normal flow of traffic.
Well, that was one of the problems in Arizona was people were getting mad at the Waymos because they were so slow and cautious that they were holding up traffic and stuff. Hey, do you want to do the top of the hour and do all of that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, give you a couple of minutes. I'll be right back, and then we'll do the top.
All right. So a little bit more about the Cruise Origin. So this is a vehicle that was first revealed back in January 2020, right before a few things changed. But it's been in development. It was designed by GM and Honda in partnership with the team at Cruise. And while we were touring the Cruise headquarters, they had several of them there in the garage that they were working on doing various experiments with. One of the vehicles that they had in the garage had been modified. Cruise and GM have been working with a company called Ability. Braun builds a lot of the wheelchair accessible systems. They do modifications to mostly to minivans, but also some other vehicles to make them wheelchair accessible. And they do versions of the Chrysler Pacifica and the Toyota Sienna and a variety of other vehicles. And so they worked with Braun to develop a wheelchair access system for the Origin. And so when you see the Origin, it basically looks like a box, and it's got it's a 6-seater. All the seats are facing the middle, so it's called carriage style seating. And then there's sliding doors on either side of the vehicle that automatically open and close. With the wheelchair version, they take out one of the seats in one corner, and they raise the floor by about an inch or so, and then they have a ramp that slides underneath that floor. You've got these big wide sliding doors that open up. The ramp comes out, tips down, so the person in the chair can get up into the vehicle. They back into the space that's been left for a wheelchair, and then they've designed an automatic locking mechanism that clamps onto the wheels of the chair to lock it in place for safety for the duration of the ride, and that the ramp pulls back into the vehicle, and the doors close, and you're on your way. They hope to have the Origins running on the streets in San Francisco sometime in the first half of 2023. Again, it all depends on getting approval. They've submitted the paperwork to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, but they're still waiting on that. So Web 4647 in the chat asked, can you do a drive with Tesla FSD beta and compare it to Cruise?
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Me and my car. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's see. Let's get back to the phones. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. It's actually Sunday in football season is a good time to call because a lot of our stations go to football. And so if you've been thinking, oh, I'll never get in, today is a good day to try anyway. John's on the line from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hello, John.
Hello, this is
John, right? Yes. Hello, John.
hello.
What can I do for you?
So basically, I'm trying to look for a cheap laptop for over the road. I'm a truck driver.
Nice. Okay. Are you driving right now?
No.
Okay. It's not unusual. Not unusual. I could tell you're on a nice headset, though, a noise-canceling headset that the truck drivers like. Yeah.
So basically, I've been looking at the Lenovo ThinkPads.
I love them. They're not the cheapest. But let me just explain that many manufacturers have two lines. They have a consumer and a pro line. And the consumer lines are cheaper and also made with cheaper components. So, they're not going to be as good. They're not going to be as fast. The screen's not going to be as good. The trackpad's not going to be as good. The keyboard. ThinkPad is Lenovo's business line, high-end line. And so you're spending a little bit more, but honestly, I think it's worth it if you can afford it. The quality is so much better.
Well, the ones I've been looking at are the ones that are they're refurbished.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that's still a good choice?
So refurbished depends on who's doing the refurbishing. So if it's from Lenovo, okay, or maybe somebody you really trust, Best Buy or somebody. The problem with refurbished is sometimes you're buying somebody else's problems, right? So It depends why that laptop got on the refurb market. Generally, when a manufacturer or a big retailer offers, and if it's a trustworthy retailer offers refurbished, it's because they're not allowed to sell open box goods as new. So if somebody buys a laptop, takes it home, has buyer's remorse, maybe doesn't even turn it on, or turns it on and and turns it off and brings it back, they have to sell it as refurb. They have to sell it as used. So often that's a good deal, but I should point out, you're not going to get as much off. Apple sells refurbished Macs, and they're $100 off. They're not a huge amount off. So if it's half the price it would have been sold at retail, and it's a current version, then that's suspect. But if it's a decent discount and it's a current version, and here's the really important thing: they offer the full warranty, then it's okay. So, and that's why you want to buy it from at least from a retailer that is reputable, like a big box store, or the big box stores like Costco and Sam's Club and so forth. They have a really friendly return policy. People could bring it back sometimes after 2 or 3 months, and they'll say, okay, fine. So and if that's the case, then you may be getting a really good deal on a laptop that's barely used. It's the equivalent of a car that's driven a few thousand miles. So it's just, you got to use your noggin.
Okay. So what version of Linux do you think I could...
you're going to... Now, this is a whole other thing, which is, I'm thrilled. I don't know if you've been listening for very long, but I'm increasingly disgruntled with what Microsoft's been doing with Windows. They're putting advertising in it. They're doing all sorts of stuff, and it's unreliable, and it's insecure, and it's buggy. And I use Windows for gaming. Many businesses, our business department uses Windows because it's Excel and so forth. But if you're a home user and you can use Linux, I think you're going to be better off. Linux is more reliable, more secure. It's not perfect. In fact, there's a big Linux issue going on right now, but it won't hit you as a home user. Lenovo's are a very good choice for Linux. And in fact, some of the problems that a refurb has, are hardware, but some of them are just software. You put Linux on there, you might eliminate all of that. You're starting completely fresh. I'm a fan of a Linux that will install absolutely easily on this ThinkPad. It'll probably, everything will work, including the cameras, the fingerprint reader, the trackpad. It's called Manjaro, Manjaro. You can download the installer from manjaro.org for free. You put it on a USB key. There's two new ThinkPads that are using a new Microsoft security chip called Pluton that have to go through extra steps to make it Linux compatible. Microsoft really looks like they don't want people to do this, or maybe it's Lenovo. But other Lenovo's, almost any older Lenovo you get, in fact, that's usually the computer I buy to put Linux on. A lot of the Linux developers use ThinkPads. It's a very good choice for Linux. And Manjaro will install flawlessly. And have you ever used Linux?
It's been close to 20 years.
Oh, you will then be very pleased with the progress it's made. I've been using... Go ahead.
So the last version of Linux I used was probably Ubuntu 02 from 2002.
Yeah, it's come a long way. Ubuntu is fine too. A lot of people, that's kind of the default for everybody. It's based on a base version called Debian. There are really two families in the Linux world. There's Debian, which is slow and reliable. They don't want to put the latest stuff on there. But if you've been using Windows or Mac, you're used to having the latest browsers, the latest software, and so forth. Manjaro is based on Arch, which is what we call a rolling distribution. And it usually has more, they keep up to date with the latest versions of all the software. Ubuntu, not so much. It's pretty good, but it's not quite as much. I prefer a rolling distro. Sometimes that can cause problems because it can break. And one of the reasons I recommend Manjaro instead of plain Arch is Manjaro takes some extra steps to make sure they don't push out an update unless it's been tested for a few weeks. So it's much less likely to break anything. I think Manjaro is what I put on all my machines now. I think it's very good. If you wanted Ubuntu, there is a spin of Ubuntu from a company that makes Linux laptops called System 76. It's called Pop OS. It's very good also. It's more Ubuntu-like. Yeah. Pop OS is if you liked Ubuntu, you'll love Pop OS.
Okay.
Hey, enjoy. I think you're smart. I think if you're technically savvy enough to put Linux on, then a refurb might not be a bad thing because if you have issues, you'll kind of understand it. Make sure they have a good warranty. You're going to save a lot of money. You save even more money because you don't have Windows on there. You have a free operating system called Linux, which I think is very, very good. As good, if not better than Windows. Now, always remember, the problem is it doesn't necessarily run everything Windows does. So if there's a Windows program you need, you better make sure it will run under Linux. Linux has a bunch of compatibility software that usually will do that. For instance, there's a game I wanted to play. It's on Steam called Satisfactory, but it's for Windows only. This is why a lot of people have Windows machines to play games. But lately, it's become easier and easier to run these Windows-only games on Linux. I've been running it on Linux. Did a Twitch stream last night. It's called Satisfactory, and I play it under Steam's compatibility layer called Proton, and it worked great. So, honestly, I don't even think Microsoft these days cares if you use Windows. They make money on it. But they know their future is not operating systems. Their future is the cloud. And when you get to the cloud and you're using, a computer that's running out there on the internet, the operating system doesn't make a lot of difference. So people are comfortable. They're used to Windows. I know people hate it when I say bad things about Windows. They feel like, hey, I'm Team Windows, and you're saying something against my team. Hey, love it or leave it. Well, I left it. And I tell everybody to leave it because Microsoft is their heart's not in this anymore. I'll be honest. Their heart is not in it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls coming. Just a bit. Yes, you'll love the Joule, Dr. Mom. The Joule or get a Breville. Traditional, if you like a traditional microwave, the Breville's a great choice. If you want the microwave that has recipes and is super smart, I am very happy with Our June, it's June, not Joule, our June oven. Okay, Sam Abuelsamid.
All right.
I give you the con. You're in charge, man.
Okay. So, continuing the discussion of the cruise robotaxi service, Web 4647 in the chat was asking about comparing it to Tesla's full self-driving beta. So, first of all, Tesla's system, despite the name, is not full self-driving. It is not fully autonomous, and it is unlikely to ever be capable of fully automated driving without supervision. Certainly not under all circumstances. At best, it would probably be limited to operating under certain conditions, certain weather, traffic conditions. It's simply not robust enough with a camera-only system to be safe enough to be able to remove all supervision from the system. It might be able to do unsupervised driving on highways, but it's unlikely to ever be able to do the sort of thing that you see the cruise vehicle doing, and also Waymo and Argo and Motional and a number of other companies that are developing these systems that have much more complete sensor packages and redundant computing. I don't have access to a Tesla, but I've seen enough videos of people testing the FSD beta that I can say with a fairly high degree of confidence that I would not trust the system to have anybody operating it without somebody overseeing it. It is simply not reliable enough. There's too many times when it does things that are blatantly dangerous, that it needs to be supervised. And which is exactly why Tesla says you must keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. They say that right in the instructions. And it is nowhere near the capability of what these other systems like Cruise, Waymo, Argo, Motional, Baidu, and others are able to do right now in terms of operating without a human supervisor on board. Somebody else had a question about whether the cruise vehicles are monitored. Yes, at this time they are all monitored, which is part. And it said that if the system's being monitored, it's not autonomous, which is exactly why I don't use the term autonomous. And the industry, in fact, generally shies away from the term autonomous. What we usually say is automated driving. So right now in California, for example, part of the regulations that the CPUC has for driverless operations is that there has to be somebody monitoring the vehicles, monitoring for any problems or anything else that might be going wrong. At some stage, they'll probably continue to be monitored. But the number of vehicles that are monitored by individuals within a control center will be increasing over time, so that you don't have to constantly, there doesn't have to be somebody constantly watching every vehicle. What they don't do is the vehicles are not remotely driven. That is done. That's not a reliable enough system for remote driving because of challenges with connectivity, hitting cellular dead spots. So these vehicles, if the vehicle gets into a scenario where it's not sure what to do, it will pull over to a safe place and essentially call home and ask for assistance. And then an operator will come on, look at a live stream from the sensors and give the car some hints and directions as to what to do. And then it's up to the car to proceed with actually executing on that and making that happen. So they're monitored for now. but eventually they won't all be monitored. Let's see. Scott LV mentioned that this has been going on in Las Vegas since 2018 with Lyft. Yeah, and that's Motional that's doing that. Motional is when they started in 2018, it was actually Aptiv, which is a major automotive supplier. Motional is a joint venture between Aptiv and Hyundai. They formed this joint venture a couple of years ago, and combined Aptiv's work on automated driving with Hyundai to develop a vehicle platform for them. So this is still ongoing in Las Vegas right now. Las Vegas is one of the cities where Motional is testing. They're also testing in San Diego, Santa Monica, Pittsburgh, Boston, and Singapore. They've been in Singapore since 2016, and they have been offering Aptiv, and now Motional has had several dozen of their vehicles operating on the Lyft network in Vegas since mid 2018. The last time was at CES in 2020. I took several rides with these vehicles on the Lyft network, and they were all fairly uneventful. But at this point, they are actually still using safety drivers in those, so they are not fully driverless. They have safety operators in the vehicles, so if anything goes wrong. And also, the rules in Las Vegas until now have been that the automated vehicles are not allowed to go in automated mode onto private property. So when they go into the hotel parking lots and so on to pick up and drop off passengers, then the human drivers have to take over control. So they're automated out on the main streets, but not on the private property. That is changing, and Las Vegas is planned to be one of the launch cities for Motional's driverless service in 2023, along with probably San Diego and Singapore. And maybe a couple of other places. But if you go to Las Vegas today and use the Lyft app, when you open it up for the first time, you will be prompted. They'll tell you, there's automated vehicles available. If they're around, would you be interested in riding in one? And if you opt in, then when the next time you request a ride, if there's one nearby, they may send it to you. And it's just like using any other Lyft ride. And they are replacing the BMWs that Scott mentioned with Hyundai Ioniq 5s. Their new generation vehicles are Ioniq 5s. They have the latest generation of Aptiv system on there, or Motional system, and they are those are probably going to be swapped out on the Lyft fleet by around the end of the year. I think they want to try and have those running in time for CES in January. Someone else asked about if an AV kills a pedestrian and you're sitting in the back seat, are you responsible? First of all, any AV company that doesn't take responsibility for anything that happens, you should not go anywhere near those vehicles. And that includes Tesla. Tesla does not take responsibility. The human is still responsible if anything goes wrong with that system. Tesla does not accept responsibility. Cruise, if you're in a cruise vehicle or Argo or any of these other vehicles, you are not responsible if anything goes wrong. The company is responsible, and that is the way it should be. Several automakers like Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, and others have already announced publicly that when they do launch AVs, when the system is in automated mode, they will accept liability for anything that happens, any crashes that happen with those vehicles. So if you're expected to be liable when you're riding in a vehicle in the back seat, you should not be in that vehicle. You should just walk away. Yeah. Don't even go near it.
Not my fault, man. I was just sitting in the back seat. Yeah. If a cabbie hits somebody and you're in the back seat, you're not liable.
Yeah, exactly.
Why should you be liable if
it's a piece of software that's driving the vehicle, whoever created that software should be liable.
I agree. Hey, thank you, Sam. That was really interesting. I really appreciate that update.
No problem.
Seeing him driving around.
Next week, I won't be here. I will be on my way to Bozeman, Montana.
Well, have a wonderful time. Are you going fly fishing?
Thank you. No, it's work.
Okay. Thanks.
Got to drive a new Jeep.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Well, hey. How are you today? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smart cars, EVs, self-driving vehicles, smart watches. Got the new iPhone if you want to ask me about that. iOS 16 came out this week. Next Saturday, I will have the new Apple Watch Ultra because I like to live on the edge. I'm Mr. Extreme Sports. No, but I want to look like I am with that big honking thing on my wrist. I want to tell you a little story as we begin the show. We'll go to the calls in just a second. An 8888 Ask Leo. Little story about a kid just grew up a few miles from here in Sonoma County in the wine country. Kind of quiet, bucolic countryside. He's about 3 years old. This was he's 30 now, so 27 years ago, late 90s. His parents bought a computer, and he taught himself how to use it. Pretty good for a 3-year-old, right? He says, I wasn't a very good student until I joined the robotics team at high school. And that got me very excited about the whole software computer thing. Still, his grades weren't good enough to get into the University of California at Berkeley. Hard school to get into these days. The state school here. He did get into a very good school, though. He enrolled at Brown University. In his junior year, which was about 2012, he applied for a fellowship run by billionaire financier Peter Thiel, the guy who made a lot of money off of his initial investment in Facebook. The fellowship offered applicants. We talked about it when this happened 10 years ago. He said, Peter Thiel said, don't go to college. I'll give you $100,000 not to go to college, to drop out and form a company. Peter Thiel's kind of a nut job. But anyway, our hero said, okay. I'll tell you his name is Dylan Field. Dylan Field. He said, okay, I'll take that $100,000 and I'll drop out of Brown. Some might say a bad idea, but he found a little software company. First, he pitched software to modify drones to monitor traffic and catch reckless drivers. Failed. So he thought, and he said, well, I would like to make web-based software for designers. Oh. Even though they weren't sure, he started with a friend from Brown, Evan Wallace. They weren't sure if there were enough designers in the world to make it fly. He had a passion for it, so they created a company. It's called Figma, like a figment of your imagination, Figma. For 4 years, they lived on that $100,000. It took them 4 years to get the first product out the door. In fact, they were working in an office above a bar in San Francisco. In fact, it was so bad that starting around 3 o'clock on Fridays, they had to stop work because it was just too noisy. They'd all go home. But especially during the pandemic, designers, in fact, you might have heard the name Figma. Designers have started to use Figma, and they started to make money. They went out and raised some money, more money. $100,000 doesn't get you very far. So in 2018... they raised enough money to be valued at $115 million. Oh, that's a lot of money. But remember, Dylan doesn't get that money. That's money that goes into the payroll and so forth. In fact, he was living in a one-bedroom apartment in the Mission District. According to the Wall Street Journal, he'd stop for $1 cup of coffee on the way to work. I mean, it wasn't exactly the fancy life. Had another fundraising round last year. Figma was really coming on strong during the COVID. Designers working at home, freelancing, gig workers, all love Figma. And in fact, it scared Adobe, which makes Photoshop and Illustrator and all the expensive design software, because it was less expensive. They raised another bunch of money in last year, giving their value $10 billion. Wow. $10 billion. Still, though, Dylan and company, they weren't flush. They had a little more money. They had a little more what they call runway. They could survive for a little longer. But Adobe started to worry a little bit. This company, they're not making money yet, but their revenue's like hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and it's coming out of our pocket, says Adobe. So they called him up, and they said, "What would you take to buy your company?" Dylan said, "Well, I don't know." The Wall Street Journal got wind of this, wrote a story. They said, Adobe said, we gotta talk. Dylan said he was awake for all night as they tried to figure out the price. Eventually, Dylan Field, who was living in a one-bedroom apartment above a bar in the Mission District a couple of years ago, made a deal for $20 billion. Maybe it wasn't a bad idea to drop out of Brown 10 years ago. $20 billion. He still has 10%, it's estimated, of the company. That's going to make him a $2 billionaire. He says, I'm not a drinker, so I had a little bit of champagne to celebrate. It's good, though. He's a new father, has a new baby. They were ready to go public, but then, as you may know, the tech stock market froze up, and they said, let's go for this. Let's go for this. And he is now asked if he's a tech bro. The Wall Street Journal said, "Are you a tech bro?" He said, "I don't know. You tell me." Congratulations. Small town guy, grew up just down the street, dropped out of college because Peter Thiel said, "Well, I'll give you $100,000 if you drop out of college." Took that money, founded a company. He's now, company sold for $20 billion, which is the largest acquisition of a private tech company, I think, in history. Amazing deal. The Adobe stockholders weren't too happy about it, but I think Adobe had to do it because they were going to get their lunch ate. They didn't have much of a choice. Now, of course, Dylan, don't start spending the billions because the regulatory approval still has to come through and all of that stuff. And by the way, half of it was cash, but half of it was Adobe stock, and Adobe's stock price tumbled down the worst week since 2002 because of the news. But Adobe said, we got to do this. There's no choice for us. I hate to tell those stories because for every one Dylan Field, there's 100, maybe 1,000 entrepreneurs who it didn't happen. And they're, but I think it's a nice story of success. $20 billion for Figma. 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go, and Dan's on the line from Berkings, South Dakota. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Welcome. What can I do for you?
Yeah, I'm a proud owner of a new Pro Max here, and I had one little problem downloading my backup. I got it all downloaded, was using the phone almost like normal, but it wouldn't update to that 0.1 or 0.01, whatever that is.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, the new iPhone gets an update right out of the box. And it says it won't do it. Is it fully charged? Is it on the charger?
Well, when you go to the settings, I've fixed this since, but I thought I would bring it up to you.
Okay, good. Yeah, 1601 is the official point release for the iPhone, new iPhone. Yeah.
So after I got it down, it seemingly downloaded all the info that I needed to get going, and it seemed like the same phone I just had, 12 Pro before that.
Yeah. That's what you did. I had the same exact thing, 12 to 14. My recommendation is to do exactly what you did. The eSIM is easy. You turn on the phone. It says, I see you have an account on the old phone. You want me to copy it over? You don't have to transfer the SIM. There is no SIM tray. You just say, yeah, copy it over. And then it says, okay, and you want me to restore from your iCloud backup? And I said, yes. And about an hour later, it's identical, except it's a new phone.
Yep, same. Although when you go to the settings, right after you ask for that download or the backup, it'll say about to down, or how did it say it? Something like about to download approximately 700 megabytes to finish out your install or something like that.
Right.
And I said that for 2 days.
Oh, that's not good.
I thought I'd give it overnight,
Yeah.
And I really couldn't find anything on there that was incomplete. It seemed to be working as before. But I eventually just went back to factory and
started over.
Started over, yeah.
And the second time it went through pretty quickly?
Yeah. Well, I didn't download the backup.
Okay.
Time. I didn't have the phone with me, so I just started from scratch and like we always do.
It's not a bad idea. Reinstall just the stuff you need. I had gone through my old phone and deleted apps I didn't need. I think, sometimes that happens. You had a hiccup in the download or at some point I was amazed, frankly, because it transferred over the SIM in the first couple of minutes. It was already getting phone calls at the old number. And then it was just a matter of downloading the rest. And I did not try to update to 1601 until after it said, in fact, it said you can't do 1601 until you finish restoring.
I would have left it for longer if I hadn't, but I wanted to.
Did you try turning it off and on again? I know this sounds like a bad joke.
Yes, I've watched Call for Help.
But
oddly entertaining about listening to you solve serial printer problems back in the day.
Please don't. I have nightmares still.
It's a little surreal talking to you, but I'm glad I have a little bit smarter problems here. But
do you like the new phone? Are you happy?
Oh yeah, I was I had a 10s Max, and then I went down to the mini type phone.
Yeah.
And then I went back to the Pro, kind of a regular sized phone. I was expecting more of almost a bigger phone.
You know what's funny? I'm putting it in my iPhone 12 case. It fits almost perfectly. The only thing that doesn't is the camera is just a little bit bigger. So on the iPhone 12 case, it gets cut off at the edge a little bit. But for now, until I get my new iPhone 14 case, it fits perfectly right in the case, which is amazing. And the switches are in the right spot and everything. Yeah, I think it's.
I went to the Max.
So you didn't have a Max, so yeah, you couldn't reuse your case. But I had a 12 Pro Max, and this is the same case as I use on the 12 Pro Max, which is. However, will want a new case eventually because of that camera. It is just a little bit bigger. It's a big bump. It's such a big bump that when I put this thing on my easel to charge it, one of those Qi charging easels. The bump is so big, it kind of pushes it away from the back. It still charges, but it's a little tilted because of it. So it's a big camera bump.
I've got the nice Peak Design.
I love that. Yeah, I have that too.
One, yeah.
That's really nice. I don't have it for the 14 yet, so I'm going to have to order a new one. But yeah.
Their case just came out. So
nice. I will order that. Yeah. Yeah, I got I have it right here. I got the whole kit and caboodle from Peak Design. I got the bicycle mount, the car mount, the thing mount, and this mount, the slim wallet, the magnetic thing, a whole thing. This is a system. Yep. You put the case on. Oh, and here's a charging stand. I'll have to start using that. At least I got a better charging stand.
Didn't get it before the 14s came out.
Yeah, now I have to order the thing for the 14. Oh, boy. Anyway, pleasure talking to you. I hear the kids in the background. I hope you're taking lots of good pictures of the kids.
Yeah, we're at the zoo, so we're having
fun
workout on the camera.
This is great. Yeah, get some telephoto shots. Send me a link. I'd love to see them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's nice to have these camera phones now are so good. You could go to the zoo and get a nice close-up of the lion without risking your life. I think that's a good thing. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Chris Marquardt, photo guy, coming up. And this will be fun. This will be an interesting one. Chris is going to talk about getting your kids excited about photography. I like this. But let's go back to the phones right now anyway and say hi to Rick in San Diego. Hello, Rick.
How you doing, Leo?
I am great.
Hey, I got a question that seems kind of silly, but I'm having trouble getting my printer to connect to the new modem that at&t gave me.
So you have a Wi-Fi access point, I hope. Yes.
Yes.
And you go into the printer. Does the printer have a little LCD screen on the front of it? That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. And
okay.
I go into the menu and I say, I can't remember off the top of my head the ones that asked me, but
yeah, it has in the settings it'll have a Wi-Fi setup. Don't use the WPS, just use the Wi-Fi setup, and it'll scan, and it should see your at&t modem. Does it see it?
Yes, sir.
Good. And then you click on that, and it'll say, okay, what's the password? And you enter that?
Yep, enter that in, and then it says no good.
No? Huh.
No, but it worked for, I actually was able to log into the Wi-Fi. I guess you call it the router.
Yeah, so you're able to do it with your phone or your computer, and it works just fine.
I go in there and I can see the password to verify I got the right password.
Right.
You would think.
It's tricky. I'll tell you what, it is tricky because you have that little keyboard on the printer, and it's very easy to get uppercase or lowercase wrong, or to type the wrong punctuation or whatever. So I would just bet that as long as you can see the password and you know it's the right password, and when you log in with your computer, it works. So you know you have the password, then it should be just a case of typing it in exactly right. One possible problem that I should bring up, is it an older printer?
It's probably 5 years old by now.
So it is possible that the printer doesn't support the encryption protocol that the router is using. So there's a couple of things that can go wrong. If you've got the password right, and I don't want to imply you're typing it wrong. It's just hard. I know it's hard to do. But if you're sure you're typing it right, then then there are a couple of possibilities. One, you want to make sure your printer may not support the 5 gigahertz band. In fact, if it's 5 years old, it almost certainly doesn't. It supports the 2.4 gigahertz band. So you want to make sure, and this is tricky, this happens to a lot of IoT devices, that you join the right band. And the printer will say, well, I see it. I see Rick's router. I'm going to join it. And it joins the 5, and it doesn't print because it doesn't work. Or it doesn't join the network because it says, I don't know what this is. So that's trickier. One way to fix that is to have, and some routers will do this, a different name for the 5 gigahertz band. Rick's Wi-Fi 5G, and then make sure you join the 2.4. So that's one possible problem. The other one is the kind of encryption that new router is using. You want to have encryption on Wi-Fi, otherwise all your stuff's just floating through the air. Anybody can read it. And your printer may support WPA, but not WPA2, in which case you might have to change the encryption on the router to match. Chris Marquardt next. Stay here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for our photo sensei, my photo sensei, Chris Marquardt at sensei.photo. He's a professional photographer, author of many lovely books about photography, a photo coach at sensei.photo. He does photo workshops, and he has the best photography podcast, Tips from the Top Floor, TFTTF.com. Hello, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure.
How's everything?
It's going great. I love your chosen topic today.
Yeah, I could sense some excitement there. I want to talk about how to get kids excited about photography, because I mean, as parents, you sometimes need to entertain your kids. You might want to have them do something creative. You want to inspire them. You want to plant a seed of sorts. So there's different ways to do this. And of course, I mean, there's a whole bunch of apps that you can use, and it's not so super simple as it used to be, because a camera used to be like something special, and now every phone has multiple cameras. So, but there's little apps and things, and of course, and then there's also physical photos. Let's start with the digital side of things first, like cloning yourself. Have you ever done that?
Cloning yourself?
Try to put yourself in a photo multiple times. Kids love that.
Kids
there are
love
apps
that.
for that. There's apps for that. Like if you look in the different app stores, look for clone camera. There's like multiple of those, or split camera. That will be the thing to search for. Some of them are free. Some of them cost $1 or $2. And that makes it simple for kids to, I don't know, have themselves in the photo several times, and that's a fun thing.
That's cute, because kids are egotists at root. They don't know any better yet. So more of me is good, they say. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Making stop motion movies, there's always fun in that. Kids can really get caught in that and stop and spend an entire afternoon trying to have some Lego figures move across the screen. But then what your
countrymen at Boinks do a really good stop motion,
for example,
program I really like. I want to give them a little plug. It's called iStopMotion, and it's for the Mac, but it's really fun to make little movies with that. Makes it easier.
Yeah. If you look at like there's Stop Motion Studio for your smartphone, and so again, plenty of options there. But what I really want to get to is like physical photos, stuff that does not only keep your kids busy or entertained or creative, but also creates like a physical memento of sorts. One of the things is get a little printer. One of these, I use the Canon selfie printers, which print like postcard size pictures, not affiliated, but that's one of the things that isn't too expensive.
SELPHIE, selfie.
Yes, and you can print straight from your phone, and it's easy and it's quick, and it creates a memento. Example project: take a stuffed animal on a photo adventure, make a photo story. Right? There's or an object, something that kids are attached to objects and things. So that will be something. Create a photo time capsule, like really have physical photos that tell stories about whatever your life, document your life or the kid's life, and then have them bury that somewhere in the garden to be dug out 20 years later.
I love that.
For example.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Simple, easy one. Yeah. Another easy one is making a photo puzzle. Like print a photo on cardstock and then just cut it into pieces, and you have a puzzle, and that can last for a long time. A scavenger hunt.
Yes.
Again, a photographic scavenger hunt. Like how many? I don't know. Collect things. How many such and such can you catch with your camera? Objects of a specific color or something that begins with a certain letter, or made from a specific material or has a specific property. And you can pick that according to the age and what they learn about in school. So there's a really good way to tie in things with the things that they do anyway. So scavenger hunts, done lots of those. Letter hunts. Like we've talked like years ago, we talked about the Alphabet Project. That's a letter hunt. Find
we did that. That was one of
letters
our
around you.
Yeah.
Yes, and what's even better, like print them out and then get one of those wide frames, like a multiple aperture frame, to then spell out a word or something. Make it a physical thing. Put it in the world. Hang it up on the walls, or put it on the fridge with a magnet. That'll create something lasting. Instant film, that's where I would bring in instant film as well, because you will not just create a physical memory, but an instant one. It just pops into existence, or you can watch it appear into existence.
They sell. In fact, I know not little kids, but preteens love these Instax cameras, which are like the old Polaroid.
Instax. Fujifilm's biggest moneymaker is called Instax. This is very, very popular. So I think kids don't really need to be pointed in this direction. I think they know. Here's one that might take your kids into like an analog photography, film photography direction. Have you ever played with sun print paper?
No.
Or it's also called solar drawing paper, or scientifically cyanotype paper.
Oh.
So there you go. You go onto your favorite shopping site. You'll get like 24 sheets for $10. Cyanotype paper is what the blueprints are based off. So you have this paper which is UV sensitive. So you can do contact prints of things, like put plants on this or some objects or even a negative or something. Put it out in the sun for 5 minutes. Works best in summer, of course, because it's sensitive to UV. And then you develop it by just washing it under the cold water tab in the sink.
Oh, it's so cool.
Water. It's not poisonous. And my earliest DIY photographic memories circle around the cyanotype. And this just ready-made paper. It comes in a black bag, so it lasts for a long time. And then you dry it, and it's this blue and white negative kind of picture that you can, again, iron, hang up on your wall, and that is a lasting thing.
When our kids were
lots
little,
of different ways.
We did a lot of art projects, but I am not an artist. I can't draw. I can't. And so I always felt a little bit left out. If I had only thought we could do these photo projects, so even kids who perhaps don't have fine motor skills enough to do nice drawings, any kid can do some really fun things. One thing we always did do, the Macintosh comes with a very silly little program that you can run. They still come with it, called Photo Booth. And I don't know about kids. You put kids in front of a photo booth and it has those filters and it can do silly faces. Hours and hours can be spent on the photo booth. But that's not a permanent thing. But it's still, I think, a lot of fun for kids to play with.
Well, you can print them out.
yeah, I guess you could if you make something really good. And I hate to say it, but I think that's one of the reasons young people love Snapchat, because of the Snapchat filters. And I've done that with kids, which is do some silly, turn yourself and your mom into a donkey. That's loads of fun. Hours and hours of good times. Chris Marquardt, you're inspiring. I love this idea. Now I just need some kids to try it on. Sensei, mine are 30 and 27. They're not going to be interested. Sensei.photo. Go there, sensei.photo. Find out what Chris is up to. And don't forget his podcast, tftf.com. Tips from the top floor. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Good ideas. I always felt left out because Jennifer do all these crafty things, and I couldn't do it. But this would have been fun. I wish I'd thought of that. It's a great idea. They didn't have Instax back then, but
Polaroid back then.
No, it wasn't that. So it was in that middle period when we didn't have Polaroid. Polaroid was old and gone. And Instax hadn't arrived yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Instax is an amazing business. It's just amazing how much they sell of that in different formats and sizes, and the cameras with it.
That's probably the last portable point and shoot. Because point and shoots are gone, right? I mean, that's just it on point and shoots. Everybody's got a smartphone.
Yeah, but the physical photo is really the kids love that because it's a cool thing. It's cool, a one of a kind. It's very different.
It's private, which I think kids are very aware of these days. Yeah, very smart.
That helps too. Yes.
Thank you, Chris. I didn't mention Evil, our assignment, but I'll mention it when we come back.
Yeah, we'll review that next week.
Next week, Evil. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. That's the phone number. I didn't mention, or Chris didn't mention, that we still have a photo assignment. One more week to do it. So Chris does this every month. He comes up with a word, an idea, an adjective, and it's just an excuse for you to get out and take some pictures, whether with your smartphone or your fancy camera, it doesn't matter. I love our subject this month. It is the word evil. Evil. So whatever that means to you, go out and take a picture. Take many pictures, really. That's the point, is to get you out and taking photos. If you find one that you go, wow, that's great, upload it to flickr.com, tag it TG Evil for Tech Guy Evil, TG Evil, and submit it to the Tech Guy group. Our moderator, Renee Silverman, will say, thank you for your submission. Chris is going to look at all the submissions later this week, and next Sunday, Chris will come by and pick 3 to talk about. That's your only prize, just the potential for some notoriety on the radio. Evil. That's the subject. On we go with the phone calls. Next, Ken from Tacoma, Washington. Hi, Ken.
Hi. I a longtime listener. I've been interested in Starlink. I'm an RVer. I do that 24/7. I travel all over the country. And, I'm trying to decide whether it'd be good to get rid of my T-Mobile and my AT&T and just do that, or whether I should wait until it's been around a little while longer.
Well, I know as you drive around, you've probably seen people with dishes on or HughesNet or Exceed on their RV. Kind of a pain. You can't use them till you park, and then you have to aim it. Sometimes they have automatic aimers or motorized aimers, or sometimes you're crawling up on the roof and aiming it. And then you do have satellite internet. Starlink is a really big improvement on that. But I think for most RVers these days, the idea of using the LTE cellular networks or the 5G cellular networks is probably, I'm going to guess, what most of them are doing. I don't know. Do you notice that a lot of people are using 5G? Like you can get little routers, not the residential routers because those have a fixed address, but they call them MiFis, the little cards that you connect to the LTE, and then you've got internet in the whole RV.
I started out with that. I started out with a Verizon.
Right. And what's your experience with that?
Kind of stopped working.
Oh.
And what I found out later was that Verizon seems to be the favorite of RVers.
Yeah.
And it, like, I went to the RV show in Quartzsite, Arizona, and it literally didn't work because there were so many people using it.
Great.
So,
too popular.
Right.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, and the cell, that's the problem with cell internet is you're dependent on the tower, the nearest tower, and the amount of bandwidth to the tower. And if you're at a KOA or somewhere and everybody's using it, yeah, it's not going to work very well. So Starlink does not have that problems. And by the way, Starlink, which was initially tied to an address, they have now opened it up to people who are moving around. So if you go to starlink.com/RV, they do now offer it finally.
Yeah, it's $130,
right,
and $700 for the equipment.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And I've talked to a couple of people. I'm in Thousand Trails, and I've talked to a couple of people who are in the parks who've had it, and most of them have been pretty happy. But that's a lot of money for something that's
kidding,
so new.
You know, Starlink as itself is not that new. Now, there are a couple of downsides. I'm looking at the page. It looks like it's not while you're driving. You're going to park, you're going to set it up, and they have it, in every case, they have it in the dirt. Starlink, you should know, requires an absolutely clear view of the sky in 360 degrees. And any obstructions, if you're parked, for instance, in a forest with trees, will severely affect your performance. In fact, may cut it off completely. It doesn't go through trees. So when you set up a Starlink, you need a clear view of the sky. And notice the pictures they've got, there are people out in the fields. They're not in a lot of the places you might want to be, frankly, with your RV. Forget the redwoods. So that's problem number one. It is, the good news about Starlink, it's high speed. It's over 100 megabits per second down, and it's a 10, 15, 20 up. Depends. How good your view of the sky is and all that. And also, it will, just like Verizon, as more people use it, that bandwidth will go down. But it's Elon Musk's company. He keeps launching satellites. They just launched another 60 this week. So every time they launch more satellites, in theory, that increases capacity. He's even offering now a higher speed for even more money. I had hopes when he talked about Starlink initially that this was going to be a way to make internet access globally available everywhere, like every niche, every corner, every boat, every RV, access would be everywhere. And as it turns out, I don't think that's Elon's plan. He's making the champagne of internet access. He's charging a lot of money for it, and I don't think he's going to have an affordable service. Now, that's probably good for you if you can afford it, because it will keep the numbers down. Everybody I know who has Starlink loves it. So far, so good.
I'm paying $90 for T-Mobile right now.
Right. So it's only a little, $40 a month more than that.
It's a little more.
Yeah.
But boy, the $700, on the equipment. Although the iPad cost me $700.
Yeah.
So maybe it ends up being quite about the same thing.
Hughes is $450, $500. So is Exceed. I mean, you're buying a dish. Dishy McDish face, they call it, literally. Right. I'm not kidding. It really depends on. Personally, I would stay with cellular because I think that this is getting built out. 5G is a really important technology. It's very fast. I see more and more 5G UC ultra capacity or UW ultra wideband, depends on the carrier. I think Verizon calls it ultra wideband. That they're rolling it out more and more and more, which is good. because it'll, as more people use it, the saturation will be less of a problem as they put out more towers and higher speed to those towers. So I think that in the long run, that's probably going to be the best way to go. If money's not an object and you don't mind these issues, particularly the issue of you need a clear view of the sky, I think Starlink will work great. I think that they really, I'm looking at these pictures, they're not really giving you the clear notion that you can't park in the woods. Do you like to park in the woods?
Well, most of the parks seem to put us in a spot where there are trees around us.
Yeah, you won't want that.
But usually there's almost a big enough spot, I would imagine, to where you could use it. And most of the people in the parks, I've talked to 5 different people who had it, and they said it'd been working pretty good.
Good. They do have the ability to pause it, which is nice. You can say, I'm not going to use it next month, when you're home, which is great, and they won't bill you for it. Walking around to ask, I think that's a good idea, is walk around and ask people. I do.
Because the T-Mobile, when it's dead, it's dead.
Right.
And for some reason, my Pixel 6 won't let me plug into a TV like my Samsung do.
Yeah, I think the real trouble is carriers don't want you to use your mobile broadband for residential or RV broadband. They really want you to have a special account for that. And they have all sorts of bandwidth.
T-Mobile will let me use the iPad and I can plug it in the TV.
Nice.
That seems the worst, but not the Pixel. I don't know why.
No, I don't know either. I think you're doing the right research, which is not asking me, because I'm not driving around with it, but ask other RV owners. If they seem happy with it and you can afford, the setup and the monthly, the setup's $600 now. Monthly is $135 a month now. It's not cheap. It is the champagne of portable internet.
And I'm just afraid they're going to change all the equipment by the time I buy it.
That's a good question. I'm looking at this dish. It actually looks like a newer dish than the old Dishy McDish face. So maybe they've already done that. But yeah, you're right. It's technology. Of course it's. What do you think? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott in Las Vegas is suggesting, I think this is good, to check the RV forums as well.
Okay.
The good thing about RVers is they share this information. It's not, they don't keep it a secret.
I've watched you ever since the site.
Oh my gosh,
all
Ken.
The tech TV stuff and everything.
How much? Thank you. I'm very grateful.
You're fantastic. I never miss you.
How much time on the road do you spend a year?
I'd say about 75% of the time.
Wow.
I usually end up at my sister's for the holidays.
Where's that?
And the rest of the time, it's pretty cheap. I'm living off of Social Security.
Yeah, but I've always kind of wanted to do this. We're thinking of moving when we retire up your way. We're looking at Seattle. But I always wanted to. What I wanted to do is get a boat. And do this in a boat.
I love a boat.
Yeah.
It.
Even more expensive.
It got really bad during the gas thing, though.
Yeah, it's very
really
expensive.
That all really changed my financial situation. I was doing great before that, but once the gas came around, it kind of hurt me. But it's still a lot of fun, and it's cheaper than living in my house that I sold.
There you go. There you go. Is it just you, Ken, or do you have a spouse or a dog, or
just me?
You don't get lonely out there?
No, I like it.
Good.
I do.
Good.
I'd have a dog, but my trailer's too small.
Yeah.
It's only 20 feet, and I feel bad.
Yeah, it'd be hard on a dog. Yeah.
You'd have to be a small dog.
Yeah, I think stick with your T-Mobile, and it's going to get better. These guys really have a big commitment to rolling this stuff out.
Yeah, and it's that kind of a company that kind of needs to try stuff for a little while,
right?
Before you
you
don't buy right into it that quickly, do you?
No. I had a Starlink reservation. They canceled it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just not in this area or something. But my hope was always that I could. It probably won't happen, but get a Starlink on a boat and do the shows from a boat.
That'd be great. I've read that the boats work better than anything else.
Yeah, because they're in the Y. Say they have a full view of the sky, and that works best. Yeah. Because the satellites are moving. You know, they're not geostationary. They're moving. So you need to kind of, you know, you need to be able to see them as they move into range. And you need more than one to get full bandwidth. So
they just made that legal.
Yes.
Before, it was, my understanding is only within the last couple of months. It wasn't even really, it would work.
Oh, really?
It was legal to use it on a boat.
Oh, yeah. He just announced that. In fact, the RV, same thing. I mean, it was fully residential at first, yeah.
Right.
Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for watching all these 20, what is that, 25 years now.
And thank you for helping me the whole time.
Well, my pleasure, Ken. See you soon. Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are you wearing black? Because you're mourning not the passing of the Queen, the passing of the King. Lowry Mays. Do you even know who Lowry Mays is? Absolutely. Do you really? Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz at 8888 Ask Leo, 888-827-5536, toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still use Skype out or something to call us. We also, of course, have a website, techguylabs.com, techguylabs.com. So I asked Professor Laura if she knew the name Lowry Mays. How do you know that name? You don't. You thought you did. You should know that name. He was the founder of Clear Channel Communications, which are... Oh, yeah, that guy, she said. Did you get a corporate email? Yeah. I just wanted to mention this because, of course, this show is broadcast all over the country by Premier Radio Networks, which is a subsidiary of iHeart Media, which is, in fact, the new name, or was the new name a few years ago, of Clear Channel Communications. Lowry Mays, the guy who started it in the early 1970s in San Antonio, Texas, passed away September 12th in his home in San Antonio. But kind of a brilliant radio pioneer. He was 87. He was a petroleum engineer, got into investment banking, and co-signed a loan to purchase a radio station in San Antonio, KEEZ. Now, this is 1972. This was an FM station. And in 1972, FM... it was kind of the weak sister to AM. You know, AM dominated the radio, of course, in the 70s. But FM was coming along. So I guess he thought, well, we can co-sign this, you know. Unfortunately, the original buyers flopped, backed out, and he was stuck, and his business partner, Billy Joe McCombs, stuck with a property in which they had zero interest or experience, a radio station. He did have an MBA from Harvard, and he knew a little bit about building businesses, so he kind of threw his heart and soul into it and added more stations over the next 25 years, added TV in the 80s, bought a billboard business. You might remember Clear Channel billboards are still around. They spun that off some years ago. Concert promotion business. Built one of the best performing companies of the 1990s, $8 billion in sales in 1999, $74 billion in sales in 1992. So, in 1992. So really, what is that? I can't do the math. More than 8 times the size in 7 years. He eventually, had a little stroke, handed over day-to-day operations to his sons, Mark and Randall. And in 2006, he sold the company to private equity firms, Thomas Lee and Bain Capital, for $17.9 billion. Wow. 2014, we renamed ourselves iHeart Media. Mr. Mays was a successful Texas billionaire. When asked why he sold Clear Channel when he did, he said, well, it was best for the family to sell and take the chips off the table. Lester Lowry Mays passed away this week, the founder of Clear Channel. So you should know his name. There should be a plaque on the wall somewhere in that building down there in Sherman Oaks, because he's the guy who put it all together. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Back to the phones we go. Kevin on the line from Porter Ranch. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, Kevin.
In the words of River Phoenix, my captain, you gotta help me.
All right. What can I do? I'll stand up on the desk and help you. What can I do?
Well, I'm standing with one foot on a desk.
Okay.
Right now.
Good
Anyway,
enough. Good enough.
I was on a cruise, and we signed up for one of these real slow internet plans from the cruise ship, which basically you could text each other on the ship, and we would put our phones in airplane mode. I don't know how that works on a boat, but you go into airplane mode. And so anyway, we would wait till we got cell service, which would be when we got into port.
Right.
So, but when we got to port and we got like 3 to 4 bars, we figured we were on 5G or 4G or whatever. Come to find out, we got stuck with like maritime calls.
Oh, you got cellular at sea.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
And we were
you have to, they really need to be clearer about this.
Yeah.
Boats, so there's two different things going on. Boats do have Wi-Fi, and you can buy from the cruise company packages. It's terrible. It's usually using Inmarsat or some sort of marine satellite, so the whole boat might have a couple of megabits for everybody on the boat. If you take a cruise, you should really think of yourself as being out to sea and not try to work. But unfortunately, my wife never stops working, so we always do that. And what you do is you wait till it's the middle of the night or very early morning before everybody gets up, and then it's usable. As soon as everybody's up, forget it. It's very slow. But there's another thing they offer, and this is deadly dangerous. And you'll notice on your phone at some point it will say cellular at sea, and that is marine phone calls. You're exactly right. $1 a minute.
Yeah.
$1 a minute, and you've got to be really careful. Here's the trick.
Yeah.
Turn off roaming. Okay? Because that's what's happening is your cell, and honestly, I think these days most cell providers will give you a warning. I know I got a warning from T-Mobile, my carrier, saying, hey, turn off roaming because you...
I wish they had warned us.
Yeah.
Mobile too. So
yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Oof. So then you get stuck with a hefty bill for basically maritime, as you said, maritime phone calls.
It must have roamed over. We must have seen the cell service while because we were just trying to make calls when we got into port.
Yeah, but you were on the boat, and the stronger signal might have been the cellular at sea signal.
Flipped over.
And it flipped over, exactly. So now if you're in a U.S. port, you could turn off roaming. The problem is if you're in an international port, you do need roaming. So then you just have to be really, really careful and make sure that cellular at sea is not in effect. And they need to give you the captain needs to come on the intercom and say, don't use this, whatever you do.
We saw nothing on the phone. It didn't say cellular at sea. I don't know what I can do.
Sorry.
It's like, I'm well.
You could, you know what? That's an excuse to dispute it. I would go both to T-Mobile and say, you should have told me, and I don't see it on the phone, and go to the cruise line and say, hey, what's going on? Fortunately, this is all antiquated. Cruise lines realize people want internet, and they don't want to pay $1 a minute. So they are starting, for instance, Royal Caribbean has announced we're going to use Starlink. We were just talking about Elon Musk's Starlink.
Yeah.
They're putting Starlink on all the Royal Caribbean boats.
Oh, okay.
So, this is, lesson learned. How much was your bill?
Well, the add-ons was well over $400. So it's and I'm still fighting it. So
good.
I'm gonna have to call T-Mobile again.
Call T-Mobile. Call the cruise company. You weren't warned. You didn't know. It didn't say cellular at sea. I've seen that on my phone. It says cellular at sea, but it's roaming to that.
Yeah. So it must have flipped to that.
But I make a point whenever I'm on a cruise. We were just on a TWiT cruise with all our podcast listeners, and I made a point at the welcoming event to say, turn off roaming. You don't want that cellular at sea. It'll get you.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
You're my captain, though.
All right. I'm just not a great captain. I'll get off the desk now. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Yeah, they really, I'm sure they make money on it. So maybe they're not strongly, the cruise line, they're not strongly incented to let you know. Probably T-Mobile makes good money off it too, I would guess. I don't know. You're going through the boat. You're not going through T-Mobile's towers. That's why it's effective to turn off data roaming. Data roaming says, when I'm in an area where I can't get a T-Mobile signal, I will let you, dear phone, use somebody else's signal. Now you're on land, that's going to be some other local cell carrier. That may also be expensive. So it is something to pay attention to. When you're on a boat, if the boat offers cellular at sea, they are the carrier, and they charge a lot of money for that. So it's really for emergency use only. It's the same thing as if you're on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean and you make a phone call on their phone, and the phone in your room. You can make phone calls, but it's $2.60 a minute or something. I mean, not worth it. In general, as you travel, turning off roaming is not a bad idea, because if you roam to another network, you don't know what it costs, right? The other network's going to charge you roaming fees, and those are usually higher, sometimes much, much higher than you're paying for your local cellular service. So it's probably a good idea as you go overseas to turn off roaming. You leave it on in the U.S. maybe because, you're in an area where T-Mobile is weak and Verizon's strong, or vice versa, and you want it to use the other carrier. That's better than losing cell signal. Honestly, I just would turn it off in general. Just no roaming. Roaming isn't good. When in Rome, you're paying a lot of money. That's the truth of the matter. 8888 ask Leo. We got a couple of minutes left. Nope, we don't. Let's take a break. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Laura, for saving me from myself. Let's take a break, and then I will take another call. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
I mean, technically you could, but I don't
No. Hit that button. I was lost for a minute. I didn't know where I was. I was roaming. Roaming in the gloaming. There you go. T-Mobile, cell phone plans, international roaming plans, cruises. Don't pull a whoopee. I don't know what that is, but I won't. I promise you. Whatever that is, I won't pull it. So let's see. Which cruise line are you on? Check coverage. So let's say Princess. I'm on the Princess Diamond, whatever that is. Check coverage. Oh, that's not bad. The texts are only 50 cents a text. Not bad. Talk, $6 a minute. $6 a minute. Yeah, and you were in port, so you figured, no problem. I'll be using, the port's cell signal. Well, no, apparently not. So you want to know how to turn off roaming. All right, let's do that. So first thing we'll do is I'll go to Cellular, and you'll see cellular data options, roaming on. What? So, and this actually is going to give you some choices here about what to roam to. And you could go into low data mode, but probably it wouldn't be a bad thing just turn that off now. And then, I think you're probably going to be okay. I think you're going to be okay. Hello, Mr. Pyle.
Hey, boss. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
How's space? The final frontier.
Wide, cold, and highly radioactive as always. But there's a few things going on that we can talk about. So
okay.
It's a good thing.
I guess that we were talking about Starlink. They were going to launch some satellites today, but they scrubbed that. So that's too bad.
I think. Did I read they've scrubbed that one 4 times, which is funny because they normally,
like
unless the weather's really bad, they just don't.
Boom.
Yeah, they kind of, because it's an inanimate payload, and it seems they're building these things like you make cupcakes, They just keep coming off the end of the assembly line.
Yeah, well, they're building 100 satellites a day or something, some crazy number.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess thunderstorms. Thunderstorms, yeah.
Well, and you've been to Florida, this time of year. You get some great shows, but it's heck on launching. Yeah, it'd be nice. One of these days, we're going to find a place that is roughly equatorial that doesn't have all those issues, but you can't beat Florida for convenience for transporting things. But, if you're close to the equator, maybe, I don't know, Puerto Rico or something. I mean, it's all.
No, doesn't ESA have a big facility in South America where they launch?
Yeah, it's in Kourou, Guyana.
Guyana, that's right.
That's France has that. Which is good, but I mean, it's way off the beaten path, so it does cost a bunch of time and money to get stuff down there. I mean, the worst thing you have to do with Florida is float something through the Panama Canal if you need to barge it over there.
Jesus.
But actually, there's been talk of some of the equatorial African nations of developing spaceports, which would be...
So that's the whole thing. You want to be close to the equator.
Yeah, because it just puts you right in line with where you want to go.
Interesting.
And saves a lot of fuel getting there.
All right, we'll talk in a few. What was it about the 21st of September that the Earth, Wind, and Fire was so excited about? I don't know. There is a guy, it's actually fun to watch, a YouTuber who makes a video every 21st of September. Have you seen those? They're hysterical. He started some years ago, and it was just, kind of silly. Like he thought, I'll make a funny little video of the 21st of September. And then it kind of got out of hand. Is he still doing it? Because the last one I saw, there was a cast of thousands. His name is Demi Abuelsamid.
It's a long name.
It's a hard name, a long name. He, the man behind those, he's made his last masterpiece. Oh, no. This was from September 22nd of last year. Every year since 2016, the comedian and screenwriter Demi Abuelsamid has made videos of himself dancing to EWF's September. The first video in the series relies on his absurd remix with the original lyrics replaced by some permutation of the words. His roommate at the time encouraged him to share it online, which is kind of, a silly little video. So I made a video of myself dancing to it. I made a quick shirt with a stencil that I had and just posted that on Twitter. And they were like, oh, that's funny. So I'll find you. The first one is September 22nd, 2016. I'll put a link in the show notes to this. The next year, he said, maybe I should do another one. And maybe I'll upgrade it. Now, every year he's been doing this, and it's been getting crazier and crazier. Last year, I'm sad. He announced it'll be the last one he's making. It had a children's choir, a mariachi band, a rotating room to reveal a backyard, a choreographed dance party. I mean, it was bonkers. So I last year raffled off a painting. The proceeds went to some charities. I don't know why he's stopping, except that it must be taking a lot of his time and money. I'm gonna bet. We'll find out. What is it, Wednesday?
Yep.
I'm gonna bet that Demi is not done. I'm gonna bet he's raised $1 million for charity through these videos. That's incredible. But he did say last year this is the last one. Yeah, I don't buy it. I think he's even doing it right now. Maybe he was at the In-N-Out yesterday for Badonkadonk and celebrating. I bet you. I'm going to bet you. The 21st of September. Do we know, Professor Laura, musical director, why 21st of September was such a big deal for Earth, Wind, and Fire? No, we don't know that.
No.
It's just a random date. But it is an internet holiday now. Chris is on the line from Northridge, California. Hi, Chris. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, my friend. Question that I had about connecting wireless and wired networks together at the same time on a Mac.
Wired and wireless networks at the same time on a Mac. Okay, so you have a Mac that has a Wi-Fi port.
Yep.
And you have also an Ethernet port on it.
And a dongle, you know.
The Ethernet dongle, but you have Ethernet. Yep. So that's hardwired and wireless. You can leave them both on. If you go to your internet settings on the Mac in the system preferences, which is, by the way, going to be called settings starting next month, so I won't have to make up a new name for it every time. If you go to system preferences, you'll see when you go to the advanced tab that you can see all the different connections you have, and you can order them. You can drag them. So on that Mac, you'd want to drag Ethernet to the top because that's probably the fastest, I'm going to guess. Yes?
Yes.
That's the one you want to use. So it won't use the Wi-Fi unless, I mean, there are reasons you want to leave on Wi-Fi. For instance, Apple's continuity, which does a handoff to a phone or iPad, that kind of thing. That uses Wi-Fi. So if you turn off Wi-Fi, you'll lose some capabilities. So leave it on. Just make sure that Ethernet is at the top.
Will the Wi-Fi still work if there's another device that I need to connect to it via Wi-Fi?
Yes. Yes. It may work. It may more likely work through the Ethernet because remember, your Ethernet's connected probably to a Wi-Fi router at some point.
Well, so the Ethernet is connected to a piano.
A piano?
Yeah.
An internet piano?
Kind of, yes.
So
that has to be wired in order for the application.
Oh, you're doing something. Okay, so all right. I should have asked this. I was assuming, as I have, for instance, on my Mac, I have an Ethernet connection to the router, but I also have Wi-Fi. Your Ethernet is not going to an internet connection. It's going to a piano. It's sharing your internet over the Ethernet.
That's right.
Okay, yeah. So obviously you have to use the Wi-Fi. In fact, you want to drag that back to the top because that's your preferred internet. That's your only internet connection. Then you're going to do internet sharing over Ethernet. And that's another technique. That's something else completely different.
Got it.
So you'll have to turn on, let me see if Apple still calls it internet sharing. That's what it used to be called. Yeah, you go to sharing and then select internet sharing from the list in the system preferences. And it will then allow you to choose what you're sharing. So this way, the piano gets its internet from your Mac, which is getting its internet from the Wi-Fi. That's what you want, right?
Yes.
Yes. Internet sharing. It's in the sharing preference pane, not the network preference pane.
Got it. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, that should work great. So it's an electronic piano, a synthesizer kind of?
No, it's an acoustic piano, just clear.
Huh. But it's connected to the internet.
Yeah, because the keys move on an acoustic
Oh, how
piano.
cool. So it's like a player piano. I love it.
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah, that's how you do it. Rod Pyle, Spaceman, next. Oh, yeah, so you're using the Mac and the Mac's internet connection to share it to the piano. But that absolutely is doable. The Mac will do that just fine. Rod Pyle.
Sir?
Rod Pyle.
I've been enjoying your Instagram posts, but I get the impression you guys eat out every night. It sounds like a good life.
We do not. We do not. We have been eating out a lot lately.
It's fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. If you can
After
afford it.
After years of being cooped up.
Let me tell you how expensive this meal was. It was great. We got the bill, and I was looking at it, and then they had the tip suggestion. First of all, it's huge. Then
the tip was $40, right?
Then the tip suggestion, it said, well, you could give 4% or 5% or 6%. I thought, what? That's not right. So I looked in the bill, and they had already billed us 20%. This was for party of 4.
And they wanted 4 or 5%.
Yeah, just a little extra. If you want to give them a little extra.
Oh my God, who does that? That's like a Europe thing.
This restaurant does that. We're not going back.
Wow. Are Petaluma eateries expensive?
Not normally. This restaurant has been getting worse and worse. It was the best restaurant in town. just the incredible small plates, 7 courses, one of those.
Oh, yeah.
And then they got...
Well, I say that like I've been to one in the last 20 years, but yeah.
Then they got a lot of attention from the local papers. San Francisco Chronicle said it's one of the 25 best restaurants in the Bay Area, blah, blah, blah. The food quality went down. They got somebody front of house upselling, so he brought us a bottle of wine, which I must have been $300. I didn't know at the time. Because we had ordered each of us a glass of red, and he said, well, you might want to try Le Rocher. And I'll give you a taste. And I said, yeah, that's good. We'll take that. I should have asked. I'm such a jerk.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, there's a restaurant from last night. So it was kind of a mind-boggling bill, like if you were going to a Michelin 3-star restaurant, except it's not. Yeah, it was $105 a person for the 7-course meal.
Yeah.
But then... So Lisa and I are doing the math on the way back.
But wait,
okay,
there's more.
There's 20% tip on that. But how did it get to be that? And so we figured that must have been a $300 bottle of wine.
Wow.
Anyway, it was fun. It was a great dinner. We got there. His 2 friends, was really fun, and we got there, and there's sitting at the table next to us a friend, more of an acquaintance, so a guy I know, but he's a longtime radio guy in the Bay Area. He used to be the morning man at KYA, but he's kind of very famous, Terry McGovern, and he's sitting at the next table. So I go, Terry! So that was so it ended up being a big kind of party. Maybe they put his bill on mine.
Yeah, maybe.
Something happened there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have, being in San Gabriel Valley, we have lots of Asian food, particularly Chinese. We've got a place just around the corner from where we live that got a Michelin, best emerging prize or something about 4 years ago, a Chinese place. Shockingly, though, their prices didn't go up. The food stayed just as good. They posted the sign out front, but they didn't make a big deal out of it. And you can still go up there and have a meal for 2 for, $60, $50. I was kind of stunned.
Yeah, that's why we won't be eating out again for a while.
We'll treat you to some affordable Chinese food.
Anyway, it worked out. Wow. The guy sitting next to us, I think we're going to do a show. So,
oh, cool.
Out. Yeah.
Did you say, dude, what kind of raise did you get to treat in here?
We should do a show. No, he's like legendary. He's the guy who, it is said, came up with the name Wookiee. He and George Lucas were driving on back roads, and they hit something and went, and Tristan, what was that? And Terry goes, it's a Wookiee. He's a lot of the incidental voices in Star Wars, stuff like that. He's got great stories.
That's cool.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right.
Well, it's only a week since we've seen Rod Pyle last. He is our spaceman, the author of such great books as Space 2.0, The Amazing Stories of the Space Age, Interplanetary Robots. I call this my pile. I've got all the books. The Blueprint for a Battlestar, Serious Scientific Explanations Behind Sci-Fi's Greatest Inventions. He's got, this is my favorite though, First on the Moon, a 50th anniversary, beautiful coffee table book about the Apollo 11 landing. Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief at Astra. Good to see you, Rod.
Good to see you. And you sure you don't want to become an agent? Because I love the way you do that.
This is good. Does Bill Handel do that for you on KFI?
Oh, kind of a quick, breezy, and okay, that's all the pimping I'm going to do for you today.
Does he mention Ad Astra Magazine from space.ss.org? Does he mention that? Well, I do. No. I do. So Rod hosts a podcast for us.
You're so not Bill.
This Week in Space, which is all about space with Tarek Malik from the fabulousspace.com. So you're up on the latest. What's going on in the space race?
Well, and by the way, that Friday's podcast, which just posted Friday afternoon, is kind of a cool one because we got to chat with the mission architect for the Dragonfly probe, which is a quad rotor, actually octorotor, because there's 2 rotors per pod, drone that's going to be exploring Titan in the early 2030s, Saturn's moon Titan. And, you got to listen to the podcast to get the full story, but basically this thing's got to be, it's got a nuclear fuel supply. It's got to be completely autonomous to a large degree because, you know, the messaging takes upwards of an hour to get out there. So you basically give it an order and say, okay, go over there. Don't go over the lake. Just explore the shoreline, and it'll know to do that.
Have fun right when you get work.
Technology.
Yep.
Yeah, and because these lakes are like methane and other hydrocarbons that are, you know, 100-something degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, so you don't want to go in there. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about 3 or 4 other things. So first up, just very briefly, Artemis 1. Woo! Latest launch attempt is going to be on September 27th at 8:37 Pacific.
I want to bet that it will. I'm going to seriously say this, and I'm probably wrong. It will never get off the ground.
Hush your mouth. How can you?
Because
I think there's about a 50-50 chance for October, and the other 50% being in 2023 for whatever reason. But I think October's got a good shot. That's what I bet Tarek on the podcast for his chair, which he says he's going to refuse to give me. But so either the 27th or October 2nd, pending the results of a fueling test on September 21st. So they've got to pump it up full of gas again, see if everything leaks. You know, if we've learned anything, it's that you don't want to use hydrogen in your rocket because it leaks.
It's really the smallest molecule.
Yeah, it's
literally
the slipperiest thing out there.
Yeah.
So it's high energy, which is good, but methane is good enough.
Right.
In other news, NASA, as they promised, did announce a request for proposals for a second lunar lander. So, as you know, for the last year plus, they've been working with SpaceX on remaking Starship as a lunar lander, which was a bit of a head scratcher for some folks, but it looks like it's going okay. But Blue Origin protested and sued and so on and so on, and that shut down the lunar lander program for about 6 months. That was moving forward again as of about 6 months ago. And now NASA said, okay, you guys, Blue Origin, you're the complainers, go ahead and line up and submit your proposals. So the whole point of this is, A, to get some competition going, to keep prices down, and B, so we got a backup if something goes wrong. So as we saw with SpaceX's Dragon and the Boeing Starliner, which still hasn't flown any astronauts, it's good to have 2 systems, because if one doesn't work, hopefully the other one will. So that's good.
Didn't Jeff Bezos's phallic rocket blow up?
Yeah, but that was an uncrewed flight. So that
Thank
was a
God.
backup booster.
That's the one William Shatner was in.
Well, it's the system William Shatner was using, but it wasn't the booster.
No, he wasn't in that. Obviously, it didn't blow him up.
But it did abort properly.
Scary.
So that was good.
So nobody, if there had been people, would they have been all right?
Yeah, so they might have had some aches and pains, because it's, you know, when you abort, basically the capsule says, something's going wrong down below, and it fires.
They have an escape escape rocket.
Fuel boosters, but it can generate significant G's.
So it's good. I mean, it wouldn't be a happy landing, but it'd be a landing. So
they're flying experiments and postcards that if you look in the last year's worth of Ad Astras, we have a little postcard insert in there. You can fill out a postcard with a drawing or a message and send it to them, and they fly it in the capsule, and then they mail it back to you, and it's stamped, flown in space.
So bad news.
Flying that kind of stuff. But the good thing is, it was like an unintended test of the abort system, right?
Yeah, they tested it.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So let's hope they have better luck with the lunar lander. So proposals are due in 2 months, which seems really fast, but they're on a fast track, and they want them to be able to provide whatever they're going to provide for a lunar landing by the late 2020s.
This is the SpaceX thing.
This is the lunar lander built for Artemis that SpaceX is building one, and now they want a second contender. So they're opening it up finally.
Oh, I see. So is Elon unhappy about that?
No, he shouldn't be. On the one hand, on the other hand, when it comes to delivering astronauts to space station, Boeing made him look pretty good by not being able to get Starliner to fly for years. So, maybe it's not a terrible thing. I think Blue Origin would do better, but remains to be seen, because so far all they've done is suborbital flights.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an open book. But here's an interesting one.
Okay.
UFOs.
Oh, that's always interesting.
UFOs for a while.
Sure. Just call this coast to coast daytime.
That's right. George Henry. So You remember the Navy released that footage, I think it was year before last, right?
Yeah, of a weirdly non-ballistic thing flying around.
The Tic Tac UFOs and all that. And it had already been out. So the Navy came out recently and said, look, there was a Freedom of Information Act asking for more request.
Yeah.
And the Navy said, look, we released that stuff because it was already out there. We figured it couldn't do any more harm than it already had. We're not releasing any more.
Oh, that doesn't do any harm. We don't want you to see the other stuff we have.
Right.
What?
So
just
specifically-
release it. It's not. That's worse.
Well, so here's what the rep said. The release of this information will harm national security as it may provide adversaries with valuable information regarding Department of Defense, Navy operations, vulnerabilities, and or capabilities. Now, that, you could look at that and say, oh my God, it's Project Blue Book again. They're stonewalling. On the other hand, as we've talked about before, there is a growing body of suspicion and some evidence that some of these UFO sightings, especially the ones that are really weird,
are ours.
Maybe swarms of drones.
They may be ours.
By the Chinese or the Russians.
Or an adversaries. But what if they're
because
ours?
If you do that, but if you do that near, because you know how these happen so often near fleet deployments, right? So if you do that near the Pacific Fleet or a carrier task force, they look at it and start banging away with radar and so forth. And an adversary can gain a lot of data on how radar works, what the sweeps are like, frequencies, all that kind of stuff. So by spoofing with those drones, they can actually get a lot of material. So I think that's the big concern, is that these are, not that they're extraterrestrial, but that they're of terrestrial origin and maybe our adversaries.
Maybe adversaries, or maybe ours. I mean, just because they're ours doesn't mean the Navy pilots or the Navy itself would even know. It could be a top secret thing, need to know only, and any images of it would maybe give away information about what we're capable of. So I can understand why. Okay, so that's important. Unidentified flying object, or what do they call it these days?
UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Doesn't equal alien. It equals, I don't know. And in this case,
yeah, exactly.
In this case, might not have been an alien. Might have been ours or theirs, but not.
But we do need to keep an open mind that it might be. So.
Oh, you just like to keep that going.
Moving on. Nothing to see here. Of course I do.
There's no aliens. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's so far away. There's no aliens.
Well, but again, as we've discussed, so yeah, they're really far away. I find it unlikely that they'd build a big tin can just to fly out here.
They ain't coming out here.
The hairless monkeys shoot each other. Yeah. But if there are multiverses, there's nothing to say they can't step through my closet and say hello.
Now it's you watch too much TV. Now it's not somebody from another planet. It's from somebody from another universe. Okay.
Well, but that's becoming increasingly accepted as a possibility. So why not? There could be another Leo and another Rod out there.
Yes, but there's
and you know what?
There's no
Our
hole
positions
between
might be
them.
reversed.
There can't be.
I'm the one on the air all the time, and you're the guy that comes on for 10 minutes.
There can't be.
It would be very bad.
It's you. If there are multiverses, there cannot be communication between them. There cannot be communication between
could there
them.
be travel between them?
No, that's communication.
Why?
No data can flow from different universes. I don't know. I'll make the numeric proof later. But I guarantee you it's a provable thing that you can't, that multiverses cannot intersect in any way. I'm sure that's the case.
I'm going to grant you that point because I wanted to get one more thing out while we were on the break here.
Mr. Pyle.
Well, this is kind of a fun story. So menopause relief thanks to NASA. We're always looking for those spin-off benefits.
Yeah.
So in the 1980s, they were trying to develop better temperature regulating fabrics.
Did they invent Midol in space?
Not quite.
Okay.
But they normally use like water jackets, just like your sleep aid bed cover, right? That's how spacesuits cool themselves. Right. Because you can have a up to 500 degree differential between the sunlit side and the cold side.
Right.
So they developed this phase change fabric, which basically has, at least as it's been used, is being used now, it's got little micro capsules of wax in it. So as materials change phase from a liquid to a solid or back, they either absorb or shed temperature. So this company called 51 Apparel decided, hey, women suffer terribly from menopause and heat flashes. If we have this material that responds instantly to temperature changes and then put a transmitting layer above it, we can actually absorb that heat from their body and then radiate it out as these little wax microcapsules change phase back and forth, which I thought was really cool.
What's the material called?
Outlast.
Outlast.
And they're using it for
is it out now?
that purpose. Huh. Yeah. 51 Apparel carries it, and they've licensed it to others. So this is a case of technology transfer from NASA to the private sector, and then private sector to the world. And they're using it for bedding. They're using it for sports shoes. They're using it for sports clothing, seat covers. Race car drivers are using it. So it's a much less involved and complicated way of doing it than pumping water through little tubes.
Does it look like you're wearing a puffy blanket?
No, it looks like regular
gym clothes.
And everything.
Oh, that's cool.
Because it's just little tiny beads of liquid wax. Isn't that cool? And it's so simple.
I'm going to buy some just to try it.
I like that. Are you going to put it on your Klingon chair?
Yeah. Do they have it for guys?
I think you can actually buy fabric, but I don't know if it's from that company or anything.
Very interesting.
But I just thought that was really neat. We hear about...
It's better than the Fisher space pen.
Right, space pen and,
Tang.
Coding for optics. Tang was around first. But so this is something that's actually useful for a lot of people that are suffering.
I think that's cool.
And so forth. So there we go.
Thank you, Mr. Rod Pyle.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good luck with your aliens.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you for letting me be your tech guy. Thank you to Professor Laura, our musical director. Does a lovely job spinning the hits. I hope you survive the 21st of September on Wednesday. What do you think? You think there'll be a video? I think there's going to be a video. I think Demi's just teasing us. Thanks to Kim Schaffer, our phone angel, who answers the phones, gets you on the air. Appreciate it. Of course, mostly I thank you for letting me be your tech guy, listening to the show, calling in. Thank you. It's been a very good. How many years have I been doing this? 30 years. It's a long time. But hey, I'm lucky. I'm a lucky guy. I know it. Cynthia's beats working for a living. Cynthia's on the line from Brentwood, California.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have a question regarding e-bikes.
Oh, I love them.
Yes.
Get one.
Okay.
Yes.
2.5 years ago, you recommended the Rad bike.
That's the one I have, yes.
Thank you, because I recommended it to 25 of our 55-year-old residents here in our community.
Yeah.
And they all love their Rad bikes.
Rad Power is the name of the company. And the reason, so I did a lot of research, and certainly you can spend a lot more on an electric bike. These are battery-powered bikes. But the Rad Powers were fairly inexpensive. I mean, more than a regular bike, about $1,500. But I've had mine now for that whole 2 years, and I love it.
Me too. 9,000 miles. And I'm 25 years old, okay?
See, that's who this is. I mean, it's good for anybody, but especially for people who, like us, who are a little older, who may not have the endurance and stamina and knees, more importantly, to go up steep hills. This, you still, and I've seen a lot of research that says you still are getting a significant portion of the exercise you would get.
Yes.
And you get out there because you can now do it.
Yes, and we live in the country out in Brentwood here, and it is beautiful out here. They have great trails. The question I have is, you just mentioned something about the helmet. Your Bluetooth helmet?
Yeah.
Okay, first, what kind did you get? And the other question is, can you communicate on the phone? Can you call someone on the phone?
Yeah. It's not the best. Okay, it's not the best speaker in the world.
Oh.
It sounds, a little bit like this. But you can make calls. I listen to books. It's from
Can you do conference calls? Because we have like 12 of us on a bike ride.
Sure, if your phone, it can do whatever your phone can do. So it's Bluetooth to your phone. That's why I keep my phone with me on my bike rides. In fact, I have a little handlebar mount.
So do I.
Yep,
Yes.
Yep. The one I have, which I like a lot, is from Lival, Livall. They make a variety of very interesting cycling helmets. Obviously, you must wear a helmet, right?
Oh, yes.
And some of them have Bluetooth in them. What I like about it, even more than that, is it has turn signals on it. So it has lights in the back that are blinking. Look, I'm so scared because I ride on streets where there are 3-ton vehicles whizzing by me within a foot. Mm-hmm. So I have, I wear a vest. I have blinking lights all over my bike, and my helmet blinks. But then it also has a little button you put on the handlebars, and when you press it, when you turn left, it goes beep, 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 beep.
Wow.
It goes beep, beep, beep. I really like it. It also has Bluetooth in it. I can't remember what I spent for it. They're probably more, I would guess they're more expensive. But
okay. Oh, yeah.
I think they're nice looking. They don't look like you're, a lot of bicyclists I see are dressed for the Tour de France. You know what I'm saying? No. They're wearing the tight pants, the weird shirt. They got their sponsors on it, like they're going somewhere. And they wear those aerodynamic helmets that make you look kind of, a little bit dorky.
No, not with an e-bike. You don't wear those.
No, that would be silly. So the Bling helmet, which I think is what I have, it looks, it's just a round helmet. It doesn't look so bicycly. But I love it that it has brake lights. The newer ones have brake lights. Great. They have turn signals. They have an anti-loss alarm. And you can listen to your phone. It's not I wish it were better speakers. Now, what you should get, and you tell all your friends to get, is these new iPhones and the new Apple Watches have crash detection.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really good idea. So if you fall off your bike, it will call emergency services.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And we have it all set up. Our iPhones are all set up with medical ID.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Cynthia, this is great. So you go, how big is your group?
Oh, our group's name is Pedal Pushers, and the men's group is called Easy Riders. And we have about 30.
Oh,
we don't ride 30 at a group. No. We just put an all call, and we ride about 10 in a group, and then we split off if we have more than 10. Yeah, we're really safe. Yeah.
That's really cool. There's also a walkie-talkie function on these helmets for groups.
Really?
Yeah, these are newer. I don't have this one yet, but this is a new. I'm just looking at the Laval BH51 Neo range. Has all the features.
Oh, okay, the smart helmet. Okay.
Yeah, smart helmet.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, and I've had this Laval for a long time. The only drawback is just like your bike, when you get home, you have to plug it in.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's fine. But when you have a group of women, we need to talk.
Okay, so the Easy Riders don't want these helmets, but the pedal pushers, they might.
Pedal pushers do.
Hey, a pleasure talking to you, Cynthia. I'm so glad that you got the rad powers.
Yes, and thank you very much for the recommendation.
Oh, I'm so glad. I ride mine all the time. I love it.
Yes, yeah. We have a lot of people out here.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
I'll be in Brentwood at any minute now. I'm just going to ride right up there and see you. E-bikes are taking off. They really are. And I got a tricycle, like an adult tricycle, because it has a big, for lack of a better word, cargo area on the thing. So I can ride into town and shop and load it up. And that's why it's a tricycle, because you don't want to have to balance all that stuff and ride back. And it's an e-bike, so it's as easy as driving a car. It's really a lot of fun. You still get to bicycle and you get exercise because you're still pedaling, but they go up to 20 miles an hour. Some of them, like the Rad Powers, have throttles. I like that for when you stop at a red light or a stop sign. You don't have to pedal so hard to get started or go in a way low gear. You just turn the throttle and you go zip, you go forward. And now you can keep pedaling. So I just love it. One more call before we wrap it up. Tony in Upland, California. Hi, Tony.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing fine. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I didn't want to bother you, but I checked all the TWiT TV and all the data. I did my research. I couldn't find the answer I'm looking for, so you're the last resort.
Uh-oh. Okay.
It's the old miniDV archiving question again.
Oh, Lord. You have miniDV. This was a very high quality digital tape format for camcorders 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, all of our tech TV shows were shot on miniDV.
Well, I got 27 of the family history.
Yeah.
And the thing that I was challenged with was that some of the professional services, I made sure before I was going to jump in, and they're great for some people, but for me, I want a little more because the professional services simply play and record the content.
Right.
I wanted the data because it has the time and date stamp. I wanted the ones and zeros, and I've got and my old tower, which I don't use anymore, but I still have it. I can't figure this one out. And
so here's the system. You need a miniDV camcorder. You got that, right?
I do.
Yeah. And so that's nice because that allows you to put the indicia on the screen for a little bit and then turn it off and on, something that a service bureau is not going to do. You might want to leave it on the whole time, but I imagine you turn it on at the beginning and turning it off. So you can control that because you have the camcorder. Now you need a video capture device for your computer. And it's some computers, if you said you have a tower, you can buy a video capture card that will go in a slot, or you can buy an external video capture device. Probably that's the easiest and least expensive. Elgato still makes video capture cards that go in the PCI slots, but they also make external, for about half the price, external video capture devices. You want to get one that will work with the miniDV's ports and will have USB or better yet Thunderbolt into your computer, and then you just use their software record. I'll give you a link in the show notes. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This is an article from Popular Mechanics earlier this year. So that's part of the problem is it changes, rapidly. But I'll put a link in the show notes to this Popular Mechanics article, the 10 best capture cards for recording and streaming. The Elgato is really big. There's another company, almost impossible to spell, called Hauppauge, Hauppauge. And Hauppauge makes them as well. Avermedia. It's funny, it's the same companies that have been doing this all the time. The best overall, they say, $158 at Amazon, is the HD60 from Elgato. External capture card, stream and record in 1080p 60, HDR10, 4K, ultra low latency, etc., etc. You just want to make sure, though, this one goes to a Mac, so this is not what you want, actually. You want to get one that goes to a PC, but they make them as well. But you want to make sure it has the right inputs. So I'm not sure what your camcorder outputs, but you want to make sure it has the same inputs as your camcorder's outputs. And then ideally Thunderbolt into your computer because you want a high-speed connection. Elgato does make a 1080p 60 capture PCI capture card, the HD60. So that's the same version, but it goes in a slot in your computer. That's probably what you want. That's as long as it has the right connectors. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWiT, TWiT. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.